Thank you. Please be seated. Honorable members, yes, sir. We come to notices of motion. Does any member wish to give notice of a motion? No notice of a motion.
I'm here.
Yes, honorable member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Where is she?
I hereby give notice on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that at its next sitting, the House debates the crisis within the National Prosecuting Authority, particularly the crisis of management in the NPA. Thank you.
Honorable member of the NFP.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I move on behalf of the National Freedom Party that at the next sitting of this House deliberates on the crisis at Eskom and the intention to continue with load shedding for a further period of 5 years. The commissioning of the Medupi power station scheduled for 2013, which has not materialized, of grave concern despite 121 billion rand being allocated. I so move. Thank you.
Yes, honorable member at the back.
Thank you, Speaker. I move on behalf of the ANC that in its next sitting, the House debates the role of women and their contribution to agriculture and food security in South Africa. Thank you.
Honorable member of the EFF.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I move on behalf of the Economic Freedom Fighters that in its next sitting, the House must debate the role of former state-owned enterprises like Sasol and Mittal Steel in frustrating progress for local beneficiation with a view for their renationalization. Thank you very much.
Honorable Kalyan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I hereby give notice on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that at its next sitting, the House debates the current mandate of the UN Security Council and recommendations to reform it.
Thank you. Honorable member at the back.
Thank you, Speaker. I move on behalf of the African National Congress that in its next sitting, the House debates assessing the management and democratic governance of health facilities. Thank you.
Honorable member at the corner there. No, you, honorable member, yes.
Thank you. I move on behalf of the EFF that the House in its next sitting debates the promotion of smallholder agriculture as a bedrock of the country's present and future food security, and the role of the state in ensuring viability of this section of agriculture.
Yes, honorable member.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I hereby give notice on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that at its next sitting, this House debates South Africa's energy crisis, the negative impact on our economy, and ways to resolve this. I thank you.
Yes, honorable member. Right at the back, yes, you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. On behalf of the Inkatha Freedom Party, I shall move at the next sitting of the House that this House debates the obvious resistance by the government to grant the Dalai Lama a visa to visit South Africa and how this stance compromises the country's standing around the world. I thank you.
Honorable member.
Thanks, Chair. In Economic Freedom Fighters, I so move in the House in its next sitting the provision of sanitation and the impact of the Porter system on the well-being of the people of Western Cape. I thank you.
Yes, honorable member.
Thank you, Speaker. I move on behalf of ANC that in its next sitting, the House debates importance of science, technology, and innovation for economic growth and development and enhancing the quality of life of all South Africans. I thank you.
Oh, yes, honorable member. Yes, right at the back. No, not that side, this side.
Thank you, Chair. I move on behalf of economic freedom fighters that the House in its next sitting debates measures and plans put in place to deal with the summer floods in Cape that continue to affect the Black and the poor communities in Western Cape.
Honorable Dudley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On behalf of the African Christian Democratic Party, I give notice that I shall move that the House debate whether or not there is a need to reform the UN Security Council. Thank you.
Yes, honorable member of the IFP.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. I hereby move on behalf of the Inkatha Freedom Party that this House at its next sitting debates government's failures in terms of fulfilling its obligations of the rights of people with disabilities, especially our children. Thank you.
Honourable member of the NFP.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. On the next sitting day of this House, I'll move on behalf of the NFP that the House discusses the issues of safety and security in public hospitals.
Honourable member near the door.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I move on behalf of the ANC that in its next sitting, the House debates strengthening the social contract between government, teacher unions, parents, school government body organizations, business, and civil society organizations.
No other notice. Oh. Honorable Makakwana.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I move on behalf of the ANC that in its next sitting, the House debates violation of food labeling regulations and the impact it poses on the economy, religion, ethics, and health. Thank you very much.
Honorable member of the IFP.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. On behalf of the Inkatha Freedom Party, I shall move at the next sitting of this House that this House debates the constant need to place municipalities and provincial governments under administration and how the lack of any leadership from government lead to such situations. Thank you.
We now move to motions without notice. Any motions without notice? Yes, honorable member.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise on behalf of the economic freedom fighters to, without notice, that the House notes with great concern the violent protests that have flared up throughout the country in the past few days, causing inconvenience and destruction of property in communities out of frustrations. This shows that the protests are not a matter of police, but the only available weapon for our excluded, marginalized people. I thank you.
Honorable member of the DA at the back. Oh. I have to put this motion without notice to the House. Is there any objection to the motion? So the motion stands aside. Any other motion without notice, Deputy Chief Whip?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I move without notice that the House notes that September marks the annual Heritage Month in South Africa. Further notes that the Minister of Arts and Culture will launch 2014 Heritage Month in Gauteng on the 31st of August 2014 under the theme, Celebrating 20 Years of Democracy. Tell your story that moves South Africa forward. recalls that among the projects identified to advance the Tell Your Story campaign are the reburials of Nat Nakasa and Moses Kotane. Remembers that the Heritage Month recognizes aspects of South African culture which are both tangible and intangible. Creative expressions such as music and performances, our historic inheritance, language, the food we eat, as well as the popular memory. Further recalls that, South Africa is also home to 8 of the 981 World Heritage Sites which are recognized by the United Nations Educational and Scientific Organization as places of outstanding cultural and historical importance, and calls upon all South Africans to preserve these symbols of our past and spread awareness of our heritage resource. I thank you.
Any objections? IFP, are you objecting to the motion without notice? Okay. Therefore, it has been agreed to. Any other motions? Member of the IFP?
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. I move without notice on behalf of the IFP that this House notes that 5 September will mark the United Nations International Day of Charity. Further notes that the United Nations encourages individuals and organizations to observe the International Day of Charity through volunteer work and engaging in charitable acts, recognizes that on this day we remember those who are disadvantaged, those trapped in poverty and despair, and to take action to help them. Pays tribute to all those who do charitable work in our country every day, particularly struggling NGOs and those who look after the most vulnerable sector of our society. Further acknowledges that each of us bears a great responsibility to change lives, and that every day is therefore an opportunity to help those in need, and calls on all South Africans to give up their time and resources tomorrow on International Day of Charity. I so move.
Is there any objection? No objection. That's agreed to. Other motions? Honourable Chief Whip of the DA.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I move that this House notes that Paralympic hand cyclists Ernst van Dijk and Peter de Pree became South Africa's newest world champions after winning their races at the 2014 UCI Paracycling Road World Championship held in the United States from 28th August to the 1st of September. Also notes that Peter de Pree was the first to be crowned world champion during his H1 category, 30.6 kilometer road race, crossing the finish line in a winning time of 1 hour, 22 minutes and 33 seconds. Further notes that Ernst van Dijk took the title of world champion in the H5 category by launching a remarkable sprint to the finish line after 61.2 kilometers of racing. That this House acknowledges that this was the best ever performance by a South African team at the World Championship, with our nation finishing 8th overall on the medals table with a total of 4 medals. Further acknowledges the hard work and dedication of each of the athletes, the team manager, Mr. J.C. van der Walt, and national coach, Elric Coulson. Finally, congratulates our team for flying our flag high and making us all incredibly proud. The future of paracycling in South Africa indeed looks bright.
Any objection? No objection, agreed to. Other motions without notice? Honourable Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I move without notice that the House note that Gazelle Megaman won the first gold medal for South Africa in the girls' 400-meter hurdles final at the Youth Olympic Games in China on Monday, the 25th of August 2014. Further notes that she broke a South African youth record as well. Recalls that Gazelle won a gold medal in the same event at the African Youth Games in Botswana earlier this year. Believes that her victory is an inspiration and shining example for the youth of our country, and we congratulate her on her sterling performance and wishes her much success in her future endeavors. I thank you.
Any objections on the motion without notice? None. The motion has been agreed to. Yes, Honourable Member of the EFF.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The economic freedom fighters rise to move without notice and call upon the House to note that the economic freedom fighters congratulate both the Socialist People's Republic of China and Russia in their brave move to abandon and ban genetically modified organisms.
Madam Speaker, on a point
Furthermore, note.
Order. What is the point
Was it?
of order, Honorable Deputy Chief
We
Whip?
objected there. Madam Speaker, while this notice without motion was indeed circulated, we did raise our objections to this motion, and therefore it should not be read out in the House. Thank you.
I regret then, once there is an objection to a motion without notice, it just stands aside.
What stands aside, Speaker?
Honorable Chairperson, can I address you on that matter?
Yes, Honorable Gardee.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, we have had a motion that was read in this House, even though it had been circulated and objected to in the circulation. It was allowed to be read to finish. And
Fine.
after it was
Let him read
finished,
it.
Then there was objection. So
Let him read it.
Thank you.
But it will, of course, not be agreed to precisely because it has been objected to. Go ahead, Honorable Member. I'm allowing you to read it.
Madam Speaker. Madam
Honorable.
Speaker, a point of order. Sorry. Madam Speaker, in the past, what has happened is that if a party objects to a motion without notice, it has never been read out in this House, ever.
I believe it has been read out.
No.
And I want to allow the member to read his motion without notice, although it will not be agreed to precisely because there's an objection to it. Go ahead, Honorable Member.
Madam Speaker, the economic freedom fighters rise to move without notice and calls upon the House to note that the economic freedom fighters congratulate both the Socialist People's Republic of China and Russia in their brave move to abandon and to ban genetically modified organisms. We further note in particular the Chinese government move to ban importation
Order,
of corn
Honorable Members.
from the USA, with a possible more than $3 billion American loss for the GMOs crop growers in the USA. Secondly, this House should further note that the likelihood of the US dumping its GMOs products in Africa, and particularly in South Africa, where GMOs products are still fed to our people despite growing conclusive scientific evidence that indicates the dangers these GMOs cause on the health of people of the world. So the economic freedom fighters call upon the House to note this. So I move. Thank you.
Any other motions without notice?
Speaker,
Yes.
on a point of order, while the motion without notice has been read out, one of the EFF members shouted "shut up" to DA members, and I put it to you that "shut up" is unparliamentary. I don't know the honourable member's name, but he is wearing a cream jacket with a sort of salmon.
Which honourable member was that? Honourable member, would you like to withdraw that?
I withdraw, Speaker.
Thank you very much. Are there any other motions without notice? All right, so we now move, honourable members, to the statement of the Minister of Finance. Honourable Minister.
Speaker, recent anecdotal evidence suggests that some employees are resigning from their jobs in order to cash their pension and provident funds. Madam Speaker, we are not sure at this stage how widespread this phenomenon is, but Cabinet discussed this matter at its meeting on the 20th of August and issued a statement to assure all members of retirement funds that their pensions and provident funds are safe and there is no need to resign from their jobs and cash in their pension and provident funds. Government respects the fact that these retirement funds belong to their members. Government has never had and does not have any intention to nationalize these funds. Rumors to this effect are a blatant lie. And so are the rumors that government has changed the laws on the preservation before retirement. While government would like to see members preserve their retirement funds until they retire, government has not changed the law to force members to preserve until retirement. Employees still have the right to cash their pension and provident funds when they resign their jobs. Were government to change such laws, such changes would always recognize vested rights. We will not, underline not, change any such laws and rules retrospectively. Rumors that government has changed the law to force members of pension and provident funds to preserve are false. There can be nothing as risky as people resigning from their jobs to cash in their retirement funds and end up being unemployed and losing their security of an income. Such risks are not worth taking under any circumstances, let alone to resign from their jobs when the reasons informing such a decision are false. Government is extremely concerned that members of the Government Employees Pension Fund are also reportedly resigning from their jobs, even though there is no change at all to the GEPF and its laws. Teachers, health workers, members of our police service have no need to resign their jobs to cash in their pension funds. Their pensions are safe and their assets to their pension funds has not been changed. They are also safe and no law has been changed in this regard. Members of the GEPF will always be entitled to a gratuity or a lump sum and annuity as per the GEPF rules. Madam Speaker, we do not know the underlying reasons why workers and employees are resigning from their jobs on the basis of false rumors and information. But we believe that the underlying reasons could be rooted in deeper reasons, like the fact that many workers may be over-indebted. Madam Speaker and honorable members, the challenge is that South African households seem to be struggling to save, with our household savings rate standing at a worrying low level of 1.7% of GDP in 2013. Our low household savings rate is also reflected by the high indebtedness incidence amongst many of our workers, including many government employees. Household debt as a percentage of disposable income rose from about 50% in the early 2000s to about 80% during the global financial crisis. This ratio remains high at around 75%. Many of our people are over-indebted and susceptible to income and price shocks. Madam Speaker and honorable members, maybe the question is all retail credit bad to the economy and households? And the answer is no, Madam Speaker. We are not saying that all retail credit is bad. Only some of it is bad, especially that credit which is meant to fund short-term or excessive consumption and which does not meet the affordability test. What we and Cabinet are saying is that we do need to ensure that there is responsible lending and borrowing and that there are robust regulatory checks and balances to protect workers, pensioners, and the most vulnerable members of our society against reckless and unfair garnishee orders as examples. Madam Speaker, is our current retirement system working perfectly? The answer is it is working and it is not broken, but does have fault lines which need urgent fixing. The challenge is that even if South Africans save mainly through their retirement funds, they are very quick to withdraw and spend their retirement savings when they change jobs. This leaves most of us vulnerable in our retirement, as we would not have accumulated enough savings to retire comfortably. It is estimated that less than 10% of workers in South Africa will be able to retire comfortably. Certain funds, like provident funds, also do have weaknesses, as the default is for retirees to take all their benefits as a cash lump sum on retirement and spend it quickly. Certain retirement products also carry high charges, which are borne by members and are difficult for members to understand, often deliberately so. Madam Speaker, we realize that it doesn't help much asking workers to save when their savings are going to be significantly eroded by service charges or costs, which are borne by the members. Our research shows that charges can reduce up to 40% of the return in retirement funds. We have therefore embarked on a process to engage with the retirement industry in terms of resolving some of the complex cost issues to ensure that saving is a worthwhile effort, especially if you are saving for retirement, which is a long-term goal. The governance of certain funds also leaves much to be desired because of the lack of sufficient training and skilling on some of the individuals who are tasked with managing retirement funds, namely the trustees. The proper management and supervision of our retirement funds is critical, as South Africa is in the top 10 list of the largest retirement industry in the world in terms of assets. Madam Speaker, the other question is whether government has looked aside and ignored the above challenges. The answer is no, we have not. It would be irresponsible of government to do so. In fact, it is within the above context of low household savings, high indebtedness, and challenges in the current retirement system that government has embarked on a program which started in 2011 to reform the retirement industry with the sole aim, and I repeat, Madam Speaker, with the sole aim of benefiting the workers and by ensuring that they save for their retirement, that the retirement system is simpler and that it meets workers' needs at lower cost, that workers get high pensions by leaving money in the retirement system for longer, and that workers are encouraged to receive both a lump sum and a monthly income after retirement. Madam Speaker, government has not said and cannot sit down and ignore these challenges. Some of the above issues have been addressed and enacted into law. The Financial Services Laws General Amendment Act of 2013, after broad consultation with the public and passed by Parliament, now criminalizes the non-transfer of employers of workers' contributions into retirement funds. The Act further requires trustees of pension funds to obtain sufficient skilling and training upon appointment in order to discharge their fiduciary duties. The law now protects the whistleblowers and explicitly requires trustees to exercise duty towards the fund and its members. The Taxation Laws Amendment Act of 2013, which was also thoroughly consulted on and passed by this Parliament, simplifies the tax treatment and harmonizes benefits of retirement savings and provides enhanced tax incentives for workers irrespective of what type of retirement product they use. The Act also aligns provident funds and pension funds by requiring that provident fund members annuitize, that is, they convert into a monthly income, a portion, at least 2/3 of their benefits when they go into retirement. The Act also protects vested rights so that the new dispensation does not apply to contributions that are made before the 1st of March 2015. The annuitization, which will also take many years to take effect, as it also excludes amounts below 150,000 rands from being annuitized or converted into an annuity. Neither will it apply to members over 55 years. These annuitization changes do not affect employees of government, as these are already in place for their pension funds. Madam Speaker, whenever we engage with the public on the need for saving, we're always confronted by the question of why we even tax savings, especially discretionary savings. We have taken heed and announced of this plight and announced that we will enable tax-free individual savings accounts to be offered in South Africa for the first time next year. We hope South Africans will take advantage South Africans will take advantage of these initiatives and save beyond just for their retirement, but also for their children's education, deposit on houses, or emergencies. Madam Speaker, many of the above proposals mentioned here are summarized in more detail in documents available on the Treasury's website, which is www.treasury.gov.za. In particular, the document published on the 14th of March this year entitled 2014 Budget Update on Retirement Reforms. It offers a comprehensive summary of reforms that we have put in place and that we will consult on in the future. Madam Speaker, just last week, I met with the leaders of labor, business, and community at NEDLAC, and we all agreed that we should speak up against and discourage the recent spate of premature resignations taking place based on false information and rumors. Some of these wild rumors are that the new legislation intended to come into effect next year on the 1st of March, which I've talked about above, will prevent workers from accessing their money when they change jobs. This is also false information and rumors that government is about to nationalize pension or provident fund savings. Madam Speaker, the laws intended to come into effect next year do not in any way prohibit members of pension or provident funds from taking their retirement benefits as cash lump sum when they change jobs or when they resign. In fact, there is currently no law, whether in government or private sector, which forces the preservation of retirement savings before retirement or upon resignation. This issue is still to be discussed in NEDLAC, and we will only proceed after such consultations have taken place at the right forum. What government has done so far is to propose measures which could assist workers in keeping their retirement savings longer in the system so that they can continue enjoying the tax benefits and realize growth on their retirement savings. It is important to caution workers who prematurely resign because of false information and rumors, because their withdrawals from retirement funds will be taxed as per their current tax rules. Secondly, that they might find it very difficult to be re-employed. Madam Speaker, to conclude, the other question is, are workers' retirement savings under threat? The answer is an emphatic no. As Cabinet stated about 2 weeks ago through Minister Hadebe when he presented his MTSF, as Minister Hadebe stated on behalf of government about 2 weeks ago, workers' retirement savings are safe and remain under the management of their trustees, where workers and government and employers are represented. There is no reason for workers to panic and prematurely resign to access their retirement savings. This money will always belong to them. The government-related retirement schemes, like the Government Employees Pension Fund, are not even affected by the annuitization law seeking to come into effect next year. Madam Speaker, we appeal to everyone to be calm and not make misguided decisions based on wrong and misleading information. We appeal also to financial services providers to give unbiased and accurate advice to their prospective clients and not to take advantage of their fears. We appeal to trustees to inform and educate members of their funds of the facts surrounding retirement reforms. We also appeal to government human resource departments at national, provincial, and local level to provide employees with all the accurate information they need regarding these retirement reforms, and to also counsel employees on the dangers of excessive debt and cashing their retirement funds prematurely. Pamphlets and circulars will soon be widely circulated to assist employers in communicating the correct message. We also acknowledge, Madam Speaker, that at the end of the day, it is hard to ask individuals to save when they might not have jobs or are under daily pressures of having to provide for themselves and their families. But it is still worthwhile to make an effort irrespective of our financial circumstances. Are we reneging from our commitment to provide social security in old age? No, Madam Speaker. But we are saying that even though the current social security system is working very well, it has to be funded. However, we do want to encourage South Africans, especially those who have been fortunate to work, not to solely rely on the old age grant system for their retirement. Madam Speaker and honorable members, we hear of real-life harrowing stories about relatives, acquaintances, colleagues who once had the opportunity to work and save for their retirement, but because of lack of the right defaults in law, lack of objective financial guidance and advice, lack of preservation and annuitizing their retirement funds, and reliance on rumours, they have found themselves trapped in old age poverty and having to solely rely on social grants. The reality, Madam Speaker, is that globally, people are living longer, especially in retirement, because of medical technology and enhanced living standards. It is therefore imperative to assist people in making the right decisions while they are working and when they are about to retire. International research and behavioral economics provide overwhelming evidence of how the right defaults can assist people in making the right decisions. These, honorable members, are complex decisions to make since we are never certain how long we will live and how much we will need in our retirement. As government, as unions, as the community and business, we have committed ourselves to continue our communication campaign to spread the correct message to the public and to inform workers not to be scared about these reforms, as they only seek to assist them in their goal to save for retirement and to enjoy a decent life at retirement. And thank you, Madam Speaker. I trust that honorable members of this House are also going to go out there and deal with this misinformation to society in the interest of a better South Africa. Thank you very much.
Honorable George.
Thank you, Speaker. We welcome the Minister's statement. It is long overdue. We agree with the Minister that retirement funds belong to their members and that members should not take unnecessary risks or take loans to fund consumption expenditure. We do not agree with the Minister that government has been alive to problems in the retirement industry. Fees on living annuities remain unacceptably high, and trustees remain ill-equipped to perform their duties. Retirement reform has been under discussion for more than a decade, and this has led to considerable uncertainty within the retirement fund industry and amongst members of retirement funds. Communication from government on the reform process has been patchy and garbled. We agree that reform is required to encourage individuals to make provision for their retirement and not become reliant on the state. To achieve this, government must ensure that an appropriate regulatory framework is in place without taking control over the asset management of retirement funds. Where assets are under the control of government, the real possibility exists that retirement fund assets will be mismanaged and not yield returns that would have been possible under more efficient investment conditions. It is essential that retirement reform includes the option for funds to invest their money into portfolios of their own choice and not be forced into underperforming assets. There are several examples where the Public Investment Corporation has invested suboptimally into assets and that other managers avoided. This has negative implications for members and pensioners of the Government Employees Pension Fund who rely on its ability to maintain sufficient reserves to ensure its ongoing financial viability. Previous experiments with prescribed assets that distorted our economy and tax on retirement fund investments that eroded member benefits must not be repeated. Members are concerned, as the Minister mentioned, about compulsory preservation and compulsory annuitization. There is also concern from employers and members about taxation changes that are due for implementation next year, especially fringe benefits tax on employer contributions. The implications for members have not been properly considered, and engagement with the retirement funds industry has been inadequate. The changes are premature and should be postponed. The tax implication for members is significant, and it cannot be government's intention to erode members' capacity to save. Government cannot be permitted to feed its widening fiscal deficit from retirement fund cash cows. We agree that members should be discouraged from accessing their accumulated retirement fund assets before retirement. When they do, significant fund implications, tax implications arise, and members are unable to catch up on their interrupted savings, with devastating consequences later in their lives when they are more financially at risk. Given poor communication on the retirement process, members have become uncertain about being able to access their assets before and on retirement and opt to leave their employment and withdraw from their fund simply to access the retirement nest egg. This is not sensible and should be discouraged. Provident funds currently do permit members to access their benefits as a lump sum on retirement. Members are concerned that retirement reform will enforce compulsory annuitization, where their fund credit at retirement will purchase an annuity for monthly payment rather than as a lump sum. This has prompted members to withdraw their benefits before they're locked out of receiving the lump sum, thus incurring heavy tax penalties. To avoid this, the reform process should include an assurance that existing lump sum benefit arrangements will be permitted to remain in place. Our economy is not achieving its full growth potential, and the 7 million unemployed South Africans are unlikely to find work. At the current growth rate, effectively zero, poverty and inequality will not be relieved. There is no retirement from a job that doesn't exist. This has resulted from policy incoherence that could have been avoided, as other economies did on their emergence from the Great Recession. Given our flatlining economic growth, we expect the Minister to return to this House to make a statement on what urgent steps government will take to encourage investment and invigorate our economy. The retirement funds industry has experienced fundamental change since 1980. Through the process of pension fund conversions from defined benefit funding arrangements to defined contribution funding arrangements. Trade union activity initiated conversions because union members were concerned that their own retirement assets were being used to finance their oppression. Members were subsequently cheated and did not receive a transfer of their full benefit or access to accumulated surpluses. There should be no surprise now that the trade unions are nervous about the implications of retirement reform. The Financial Services Board is still involved in litigation over surplus apportionment that occurred decades ago. This is a consequence of a legislative framework that was not properly equipped to facilitate the transition and an incapable regulator. In the introduction of the Twin Peaks regulatory model, there must be absolute clarity on how pension funds will be regulated. Retirement reform cannot be piecemeal, especially when South Africans are not saving nearly enough for their retirement. A government that is uncertain and unclear on policy direction and doesn't get the legislation right can inflict immeasurable damage to our already fragile economy. Thank you, Speaker.
The Honourable Mbata.
Madam Speaker, colleagues, the EFF supports the strong retirement funds and pension funds. We believe this is the only vehicle that our workers have post their working environment. We also believe that this has to be guarded and protected at all costs. However, there are existing trends. These trends have affected the perception in which the members of these funds have come to view their circumstances. These trends are as a result of decisions taken by the boards of these funds when they invest in misdirected and, to some extent, very corrupted deals. The large numbers of our working people do not actually have any of these funds or the majority of these funds investing in their communities. There is also a harsh reality of a South African life where people get retrenched, and through circumstances that we know, they stay longer to move from retrenchment to the next opportunity. And circumstances that are harsh to them visit them very quickly, such as the ability to lose your house, have your kids kicked out from a paying school, have your university child not able to complete because at a time when the university student was admitted at university, the parent was deemed not suitable for NSFAS. We therefore support the regime that allows working South Africans who are membership of this trust and this retirement to always be given an option as members, to always be given an understanding as members to share their plight and protect their post-state. It looks like our people have given up to even value the only investment aimed at securing a better livelihood later in their compromised state of life. But we are not surprised. Our people have been subjected to conditions of indignity for many years. And our black people in particular, having been all these years living a life of a defeated people, they themselves are not properly educated or advised on a constant basis of the value of these retirement funds. We are a building nation. We are a bleeding nation. Sometimes what we have saw is that the boards of these retirement funds are not even transformed, and the decisions to invest is always directed at industries that do not even uplift the very same members of the retirement funds. Today, what characterizes an elderly citizen in South Africa in particular is the one that has inherited a life of unpredictable longevity, difficult economic conditions, unexpected health challenges, lack of socio-economic mobility, poor investment planning, and most importantly, citizens that do not associate directly with the very same retirement funds. Some of them, they hardly even know the names where their money is invested. We need a reform that goes beyond protecting the current existing environment of retirement funds. We need an environment that protects first the right to be supported through a state when you are in circumstances which are far beyond your approval, in particular, unemployment. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Mponjane, it's your turn, sir.
Deputy Speaker, as the IFP, we are grateful that the Minister has taken it upon himself to address the rumors that have been flying around concerning the retirement funds. Rumors, Honourable Minister, on a personal level can destroy a person's reputation, especially when the information being circulated is false. And when rumors escalate to a government level, they could destabilize that very same government. Therefore, there needs to be a sustainable communication between government and our people. This will help us avoid a situation where people act from fear. There is a general despondency concerning the economy, and confidence in the financial sector has dropped. The credit rating downgrade by rating agencies of our 4 banks did not help the situation either. And without understanding what this means to the ordinary people in their daily lives, people tend to panic and act irrationally. Some people are disillusioned with their professions. Others resign in order to gain access to their pensions with undesirable consequences for some, as the Minister has pointed out. The majority of our people do not know the difference between a retirement fund and a provident fund. Some may have confused the issues due to the upcoming impact of the Taxation Laws Amendment Act of 2013 dealing with provident funds. However, not everyone has a provident fund. The language and terms used to talk about our economy is foreign to most citizens of this country, and rumors of government taking over retirement funds would spread faster because of the implied implications of such a move. And the role of brokers and investment advisors in this regard must be investigated, because most people trust what they say more than what government says, because they see brokers as having their best interests at heart. Our people need to have confidence in what their leaders say, and more detailed financial education program must be something the minister must consider implementing.
Thank you, Honourable Member.
Because we cannot function on rumors. I thank you.
Honourable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. As the National Freedom Party, we welcome the statement by the Honourable Minister of Finance. We believe it goes a long way in clarifying the issue of the rumours that the government intends to interfere in the savings and pensions of the educators. Honourable Deputy Speaker, the National Freedom Party believes that government should rather develop a program to educate and capacitate its employees to manage their pensions due to them when they leave the employment of government. Such an education initiative should be ideally ongoing and proactive, and aimed at equipping government employees with skills to manage their pensions in accordance with their overall individual financial planning and financial management choices. We further believe, Honourable Deputy Speaker, that the educators who are resigning now due to safeguard their pension money, which is based on allegations, are likely to spend such money on immediate relief of debt. The high level of debt, we believe, is directly correlated to the poor remuneration which educators receive in South Africa. The National Freedom Party calls on government, once more as we have done in the past and with reference to our election manifesto, to urgently address the poor remuneration of our educators, in particular, and government employees in general. We believe that the remuneration should be aligned with the skills and contribution of educators and government employees make. In addition, we propose those professionals in the employment of the government who are required to perform services in rural and far-flung places in our country be given additional financial incentives to encourage them to take up positions which otherwise might be reluctant to do. Honourable Deputy Speaker, like a mother who takes care of a child from the time the child is born right into the child becoming into womanhood, so should government take responsibility for its employees whilst they are employed and after they have retired, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I think it is a responsibility on government to ensure that its employees are taken care, secure and safe in retirement and enjoy their retirement. We also want to acknowledge, Honourable Minister of Finance, that your concern is noble insofar as the intention to promote savings on a national scale. The National Freedom Party is of the opinion that individual savings, however, should be a choice and not mandatory. In light of that, the National Freedom Party wants to state categorically that today the National Freedom Party is satisfied that educators will now be instilled with confidence and trust and dedication, and in so doing will go on and perform the function and enhance the educational system in South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Kwangwa.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker, Honourable Ministers and Honourable Members. The United Democratic Movement welcomes the steps the Finance Minister has taken to reassure South Africans about the safety of their pension funds. It is indeed gratifying, Mr. Minister, to hear that government has no intention of dealing with our money in a cavalier way. The Minister's call to dispel the rumors and the notion that people are going to lose their money due to amendments to laws that govern pension funds. However, the United Democratic Movement believes that there are a number of contributing factors to consider. First, South Africa is battling with a poor savings culture. South Africans generally do not save, and our savings rate currently stands at about just over 10% of household total income. As you already know, savings are an essential part of the economic system and contribute to a country's economic development. This is because savings can serve as a critical source for investment in social and physical infrastructure for economic development, thus making a country less dependent on foreign direct investment. Experience in Asia and elsewhere in the world has shown that high savings rates tend to be typically associated with high economic growth and employment. Our low savings rate, therefore, makes it difficult for us to achieve this. To make matters worse, statistical evidence indicates that there is a tendency among members of previously disadvantaged communities to spend more on funeral plans and other death benefit policies than they do on savings. This means that our people will struggle financially during retirement and will most likely depend on the government social security program to survive. There is no shortcut solution to this challenge. We have to educate the people of South Africa the importance of saving at both micro and macro levels, and we also need to educate our people about the pension fund schemes that are available in the market. Second, and the less talked about factor is the poor working conditions of workers in both the private and public sectors. Many of these workers work long shifts and are overworked and underpaid. As a result, the majority of them end up having to take out loans to put bread on the table. The other less talked about factor is the number of dependents per breadwinner in a typical and an average African family, which also makes it difficult for people to save. The end result is high levels of indebtedness among households and very little or no savings. Speaker, while we appreciate the efforts the Minister has undertaken to put our people's minds at ease on this matter, the UDM believes that tangible improvement in the working conditions and the remuneration of public and private sector employees is one of the most available durable solutions. It is our considered view that this pension scare is just a symptom of an underlying problem. Therefore, a holistic approach is required to solve this problem. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Akbar Albert.
Thank you. We wish to thank the Minister for his assurances. People should not withdraw their pensions. Withdrawal deprives them of what Einstein called the eighth wonder of the world, namely compound interest. South Africa's pension funds constitute the foundation of the country's financial heritage. It is the last line of defense against financial implosion and anarchy. As such, it must be treated with the utmost respect and care. Government in itself stands in a fiduciary duty towards pension funds, as government is the custodian of the country's financial future. This is important, as without a financial future, this country as a whole will not survive the internal pressures that will erupt due to financial meltdown. Currently, we are at a crossroads. It is trite that the decisions we make today will affect the future. However, we are standing in a special place in history. Therefore, the decisions we make now as a collective will take us to one of three places. First, anarchy. Second, mediocrity leading to a delayed anarchy. Or thirdly, job-creating growth and destruction of poverty. This implies that policy decisions today will either build or disrupt our future. Therefore, in the interests of all those who are hungry, destitute, disillusioned, poor and suffering, we implore the Minister to hear our advice. Pensioenfondse indien reg bestuur, kan die versekeringspolis word om die skep van 'n goeie toekoms te realiseer en as kussings te dien teen enige ekonomiese katastrofes. Dit beteken egter dat die volgende versekerings in plek moet wees. Eerstens, die regering moet bykomend op bestaande pensioenfondse 'n erfenisfonds daarstel om te spaar vir slegte tye, soos die Alberta Erfenisfonds in Kanada. Tweedens, bestaande fondse se integriteit beskerm deur die pensioenfondswet te verander dat alle pensioenfondse onder die oorsig van die pensioenfondsberegtiger moet val. Dan sal stropings soos in die geval van die twee Transnet pensioenfondse nie kan plaasvind nie. En derdens, die beskerming van fondse teen ontwikkelingsbeleggings tot 'n maksimum van 1%. Laastens, verminder belastings op pensioene. Saam met bogenoemde voorstelle moet die regering weer diep dink oor wat die werklike standaards vir ekonomiese groei sal wees. Daar is werklik interne beperkings soos uiteengesit deur die onlangse verslag van die Wêreldekonomiese Forum, naamlik beleidsonsekerheid, 'n inperkende arbeidsregime, korrupsie, swak opleiding, 'n ondoeltreffende staatsdiens, onvoldoende werksetiek en so meer. Die faktore is binne die beheer van die regering. Dit beteken die regering is in beheer van die land se toekoms. En indien die verkeerde pad ons voorland sou word, sal ons kinders uiteindelik net die ANC daarvoor kan blameer. Dankie.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Madisha.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker and honourable members. Having listened attentively to what the Honourable Minister has said, I will begin at the end of my input by asking the big question that says, now that this has arisen, what you have said, what is going to happen to those who withdrew their savings? What will they do upon retirement? Government has a duty to introduce amendments that can allow those who mistakenly withdraw their savings to reinvest in a given period of grace. After all, government created doubt amongst workers that they would not be able to access their savings. Unions, employers, employees need a categorical assurance that even if the present proposal...
Take your seat.
Okay. Point of order, yes, Deputy Speaker, that wasn't even hidden. I don't really need to stand up.
Yeah, honourable member,
ask the honourable
you know
member
the name of the member,
that we are
honourable
not
member.
that familiar with each other.
Yes.
If the honourable member could refer to me as honourable,
Honourable Madisha,
appreciate it. Thank you.
know that. Yeah.
Honourable, thank you, I got that. Honourable Pando, I'll go back and say both unions, employees, employers need a categorical assurance that even if the present proposal were to become law, like of course we have seen in very many other instances, in 2 or 3 years' time, legislation will not be implemented retrospectively. Members must receive a clear assurance that they will indeed be able to access a portion of their savings when the new law comes into effect, if that were to be the case. Members of provident funds should be educated on the benefits of monthly pension payments instead of a once-off lump sum withdrawal. Deputy Speaker, government must find a way to help those who panicked and withdrew their savings to reinvest in pension funds or provident funds. It is a reality that the ruling party rose and said that the pension funds were going to be nationalized. I mean, that was the case, it was there. They said that. And as a result of that, that's why we have that kind of problem. It shows the failures on their part.
Honourable Swart, take
failures. Failures.
Honourable member, Honourable Madisha, when you do that, you make it impossible for us to conduct our affairs. Do you know what you must do? Hey,
Speaker.
Proceed, Honourable Member. Say it again. No, proceed, Honourable Member.
Yes.
Honourable Deputy Speaker.
Yes.
Honourable, proceed.
On a point of order, Honourable Speaker, Honourable Madisha is misleading the House. He tells something that does not exist, it was not said,
And he boldly says it was said by the African National Congress, and he knows it's not true. He must withdraw.
Okay. Honorable Swar, take your seat. No, it's okay. Go ahead, Indate Madisha. Yes. Proceed.
It's true, Mre.
Honorable Madisha, you are being contemptuous when you do that. And you are out of order. Go ahead, Honorable Swar.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The ACDP, like other parties, welcomes the Minister's statement in the wake of misinformation and rumours in the public domain about pension fund reforms. Now, I've heard of senior police officers that have also taken early retirement, supposedly because they are concerned about either the nationalisation of their pension funds or their funds being used to fund government projects due to a perceived shortfall in tax revenues. And whilst we in the ACDP appreciate that there are very high levels of personal indebtedness and household debt to GDP, we agree that workers should be encouraged to preserve their savings until retirement, as other speakers have alluded to and as the Minister himself has alluded to. Now, the question is clearly whether workers are cashing in on their pension and provident savings early because of their high levels of debt, or is it because of these rumours? And I think that's largely as well a combination of both, that there are high levels of debt, but there are these persistent rumours. Now, if the media reports what National Treasury says, quote, there's a lot of pressure linked to levels of indebtedness, and, quote, we want to take action before people cash in their pension funds. Now, if that media report is correct, then that, of course, adds to suspicions and rumours. And we think that that, of course, if that media statement is correct. But we must see that statement, obviously, in the context of it being a proposal going forward. There's nothing finalized yet. And as the Minister said, that people's retirement savings remain safe. There's no reason for any worker, both in the private or public sector, to resign as to access their retirement savings. And Minister, you indicated about 10% of South Africans are able to retire comfortably. I thought it was about 6%, but we know it's a low figure. The proposal is that when someone changes jobs before reaching retirement age, they would be discouraged, not made illegal, but discouraged from taking all their money out, as this is the practice at the moment. And the money should then instead be transferred into a fund, and then requests could be made for withdrawals. But again, this is a proposal. This would encourage workers to keep their savings until they retire. Old Mutual has found almost 93.5% of their members who were paid withdrawal benefits opted to take cash rather than preserve their benefits. And obviously, as has been said, only there are tax implications, severe tax implications, if you take your funds earlier. And of course, more significantly, these people resigning, such as I heard of a police major who is resigning because he's concerned he's going to lose his pension. We lose that expertise. And it's incumbent on all of us as MPs to spread this message that it is rumours, that there is no such thing that your pension funds will be taken. So thank you, Minister, for highlighting us. But we need to take this message out to our constituencies. Thank you very much.
Honorable Nchaisa.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. We as AIC appreciate the explanation by the Honorable Minister on these rumours. It came as a shock to us that the civil servants won't benefit anything, having worked hard and saved a lot for so many years. However, the Honorable Minister has made it clear that this rumour is unfounded. This information, Honorable Minister, has just come a little bit late because some of the civil servants have already tendered their resignation notices in order to cash their pension fund. We wonder, therefore, Honorable Minister, that is it possible for these people not to reverse these notices? Money is a very sensitive issue, and people are always in dire need of money, more especially the civil servants, who have a burden of feeding their loved ones and the extended families. Again, Honorable Minister, SALS is tasting a lot these monies, the pension monies. I wonder if it is possible for the government now to intervene so that now they should search a taxation on these monies. That the government guards against these rumors of this nature is a great initiative. However, one of the reasons that these civil servants now would like to cash their pension monies is that they are paid or they are not paid enough where they work. That is why now most of them would be very much interested in cashing their monies, honorable ministers. Again, as AIC would wish that now these salaries or the monies that are paid to civil servants be increased a little bit. For instance, Minister, the people, more especially the teachers now, are always having a lot of loans, make a lot of loans in order now to make a living. So it is possible for them now that if this increase can be put on their salaries, then now they can be better off than it has been. The tax-free savings, or Minister, that this account that you promised that is going to be introduced, again, is going to be a great step. It is going to make our civil servants now to be a little bit relieved. We are very much appreciative of such a great step that we have just promised, Minister. The benefits now that are to be introduced is also a great endeavor to safeguard the lives of our people.
Honourable
Because,
Member,
of course, money
the red
is
on
life.
the clock means your time has expired.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you,
Because
sir.
money is life,
No.
therefore, if they are not...
It's over that. Sorry. Honourable P.S. Kakana.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Honorable members of this august House. Before I could go into my maiden speech, Honorable Speaker, I just want to remind this House that a party that went down just recently from 30 members in this House to 3 cannot lecture any party about failure. Honorable Speaker, I want to premise my speech on the policy orientation of the ANC. The ANC's economic vision rests on the Freedom Charter's call that the people shall share in the wealth of the country. Through economic transformation, the ANC intends to build an equitable society in which there is decent work for all. The ANC's most effective tool in the campaign against poverty is the creation of decent work, and creating work requires faster and more inclusive economic growth. The challenges of unemployment, poverty, and inequality require that accelerated growth takes place in the context of an effective strategy of redistribution that builds a new and more equitable growth path. Honorable Speaker, the ANC government has made considerable progress towards the implementation of a comprehensive social security since 1994. Much of that work has focused on social assistance, which has enabled the ANC government to put more than 13 million South Africans into the social security system, with more than 8 million South Africans on the child support grant. The ANC, since 2007, has developed a framework of comprehensive social security strategy, which includes the elements of retirement reforms. A comprehensive social security system requires both social assistance and social insurance. That is why the ANC government has actively engaged in its initiative to drive the development of a comprehensive policy dealing with the reform of South Africa's retirement system, the integration of other mandatory provisions such as unemployment insurance, compensations for occupational injuries and disease, COIDA, and road accident insurance. South Africa's domestic savings have a history of being generally low and therefore need to be harnessed to better promote economic growth, and at individual level, retirees will increment their chances of a financially better life in retirement. The ANC government has recognized the need to protect and improve the financial well-being of households to make them less vulnerable to a sudden loss of income in bad times. It recognizes the households must be encouraged to invest in their future, including invest in homes or productive assets and saving for retirement or business purposes. Savings, Honorable Speaker, are critical because excessive spending can lead to excessive debt. With no savings, households are likely to borrow more to deal with shocks to their income and expenditure. The danger is that excessive debt tends to linger and negatively affect the individual and collective self-esteem. It is important to save, even if it is little money, from the various grants that are received, rather than to get into debt. Honorable Speaker, our government has reaffirmed to the public that it has no intention whatsoever to nationalize people's pension or provident funds or prevent them from accessing their money. What is significant is the encouragement of workers to retain their savings until they retire so that they take a portion of their money and convert some of their retirement savings into income and retirement. Free education. Honorable Speaker, this debate in the House comes at a time when the ANC, as the ruling party, has prioritized the culture of savings among South Africans. Something very, very important. This is a very emotional issue and will need to be treated with the necessary attention it deserves. There are two scenarios, Honorable Speaker, that I want to paint here. I'm a teacher by profession. And when I was very young, I was a teacher, but it's still my profession. And Honorable Speaker, during those days, in weekends, we will take our little kids for sports activities. And this is a very profound and emotional experience. And Honorable Speaker, after the games, Honorable Minister of Sports, as teachers will always say, let's go to Mr. So-and-so and have fun as teachers. And the arrangement would be that as we go there, moya mahlong a tau o ya arwele serumula, meaning as you approach the lion, you must be having something to protect yourself with. So we'd have some bottles to have fun and all those things. But those who did not have would not bring any cold drink along. And Honorable Speaker, as you are there, those who have would say, Eva Spar, and those who do not have would say, and those who have will drink, and those who do not have would say, Eva needs parni, therefore will not drink. And people then started to get into mashonisas for them not to become Eva Nispar. It's the first experience I had. But the second emotional issue, Honorable Speaker, which I want to share with this House, is that a similar situation that confronted us as Limpopo province plus minus 20 years ago, of course under different conditions and circumstances. Our democracy was at an infancy stage. There was a lot of misinformation about what the future holds in our new democracy. It was during the amalgamation of different administrations. Now, most public servants from the then Venda Republic, because of that uncertainty, decided to cash their money. Obviously, Honorable Speaker, some invested the money correctly. They built decent houses, they took kids to schools, and by that time, Model C schools was an in thing. Some were able to afford houses in prime areas or suburbs, and their assets appreciated. Obviously, Honorable Speaker, a human element will always be there. Amongst those who cashed their money, there was a Mr. Mutabatsindi Mpesu. Because of his miscalculation as he cashed in the pension, he did not address the critical things. 4 years down the line, his pensionable age kicks in, he squandered the money, he had Nigesparni, the bond and the car still outstanding, and now they have to be repossessed. Kids have now to deregister from those schools in those days, the Model C schools. But something very profound, thanks to the ANC government for free basic education. Because we anticipated that this one day will happen, and hence the Freedom Charter. The other most profound thing that our people then experienced, families got disintegrated. Remember, the reason for all this impromptu decision was fear of the unknown then. This situation may not be unique to Limpopo, by the way, because the former TBVC were confronted by this. Today, Honorable Speaker, under different conditions in the history of our country, history wants to repeat itself. We can't keep quiet. Clearly, Honorable Speaker, we are not turning a blind eye on the level of indebtedness we find ourselves in. There is empirical evidence that shows that South Africans do not have the culture of saving. People see an opportunity to mitigate on their debts through proposed pension reform, hence these mooted mass resignations, especially in the public sector. Less is being communicated by those who have interest to our people as to what is in it for them. It is the fact that GEPF, the current pension government scheme, is not affected by this reform, and we are not telling our people the truth. And it means then our GEPF is the best. It is a fact that the current government pension fund is fully funded, it is fully guaranteed, and that you are certain about what you are going to get at the end of your retirement. So these other myths about misinformation about PIC investments are an attempt to try to mislead our people, which we are not going to allow. Now, government wants to protect and preserve our people's investment. Government and yourself have made provision for your retirement and that you will be able to maintain your standard of living beyond your time of employment. That's another confirmation. But also government wants equity between the pension fund and the provident fund, hence this reform. Honorable Speaker, one of the realities of the current provident fund scheme is that the employee is able to cash in his or her pension as he changes the jobs, and by the time the actual retirement comes, he had Nigesparni. Now, the reality of cashing prematurely also comes at a huge cost. And this is what we are not telling our people. That you lose your employer's contribution, that you get heavily taxed. Of course, it is a plus to the Minister of Government because he will get more revenue. But the ANC, being the ANC, takes care of its own people. That's why they want to tell people that no, don't retire prematurely. But also we are concerned that if our people do not save accordingly, their standard of living will also deteriorate going forward. And as I conclude, Honorable Speaker, given the challenges our people are going through and the level at which loan sharks and other microlenders have seized this opportunity, it is important for our national credit regulator to do enforcement and ensure compliance to these microlenders who are skinning our people. By the way, like I said, Honorable Speaker, this is a very, very emotional issue. And the picture I have painted, I want to check with Honorable George that is he confirming to this House that the constituency that is affected by this misinformation is the majority of our black people, and that his party is not going to do more to reassure our people that surely your insurance pension fund is secured. Is it because your party represents the elite who are formally educated and who are financially literate, that all parties in this House, or most of the parties in this House, can welcome this reform without the DA also welcoming it?
On a point of order, Chairperson.
Yes, on what you are raising on?
I would like to know from the member whether she wants me to answer her questions. To me. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Speaker, I'm not prepared, obviously. Honorable Speaker, is this yet not another confirmation that Honorable George's party will never break their limited ceiling to reach out to the hearts and minds of the poor? Honorable George, you know very well that the broader issues that speaks about these reforms are top on the agenda in our standing committee. So, Honorable Speaker, as I said, the ANC believes that the current pension reforms are in the best interest of our people, and that through these interventions, of course, we'll continue to move South Africa forward together with our people.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Members, that concludes party responses to the statements. We now move to the second item on the order paper, and this is member statements. Does any member of the ANC wish to make a statement? Yes, Honourable Member. Honourable Khoza.
Sekela somlomo ohloniphekile. Ngiphakamela ukubongela uKhongolose ngokutshengisa izimbwangi zakhe ukuthi uzophinda aluwine ukhetho ngamalengiso ngo-2016 njengoba eqeda ukwenza ngokuwina ukhetho lomasipala basekhaya lapha KwaZulu Natali ehlwitha umbuso kwinkatha yenkululeko yesizwe. Ngomhla ka-13 ku-Agasti 2014 uKhongolose ugile izimanga ewina ukhetho kumasipala waseNdaka kuWard 4 uphinde futhi wawuhlwitha umbuso kuyinkatha wawina uWard 4 eJozini. Lo mhlomulo utshengisa ngokusobala ukuthi abantu nabavoti bakwaZulu Natali neNingizimu Afrika yonkana iyamazi umkhululi wayo abavoti basendaka nabasejozini balibonile utshalo lwezimali lwezigidigidi zwamarandi ekuletheni amanzi ezindaweni zabo, imizi enogesi, imigwaqo. Ukhongolose uthi uzoqhubeka nentuthuko. Sithi siyabonga abavoti nangomuso.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The DA.
Deputy Speaker, reports are emerging that His Holiness the Dalai Lama is once again facing resistance to his visa application in order to visit South Africa. This House will recall that on 2 occasions, the Dalai Lama was prevented from entering South Africa. Once in 2009 in preparation for the World Cup, and again in 2011 when His Holiness planned a trip to visit the Archbishop on his birthday. It seems that once again, someone at Luthuli House is pulling the strings to prevent the Dalai Lama from coming to South Africa. In a country where illegal foreigners roam free as they please, where people can jump over fences to get into our country, and where the Guptas can waltz into the country with their guests as they please, a person of such high esteem is being prevented from participating in an event to promote peace. This is a shocking and embarrassing state of affairs. This childish behavior from the ANC must stop today. The Minister of Home Affairs must ensure that everything possible is done to ensure free passage to His Holiness to enter South Africa for the Peace Summit planned in October. The DA will be watching this space very closely, and we will not hesitate to hold the Minister accountable.
EFF.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The EFF welcomes the long overdue resignation of the disgraced former chairperson of the Independent Electoral Commission, Advocate Phansi Hlakula. The futile fight she waged in court of law to prevent the inevitable from happening was a serious blight on her dignity and that of the office she occupied. We hope that this final act by her will salvage whatever is left of her dignity. The EFF was one of the very first parties to call for her removal, as her role and the proven allegations she faced were irreconcilable. The ruling party and its allies were all along defending her, clearly showing that those who lead us defend the corruption as long as they stay loyal to the party. Corruption is the only wrong when done by those outside of the ruling party, but perfectly accepted when done by comrades of those in power. Institutions like the IEC, NPA, as well as SAPC should be led by people of unquestionable moral character, as the future and credibility of the country, electorate processes, and dispensation of justice depend on them. Thank you.
Honourable Member. IFP.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, it is concerning to note that South Africa's provincial legislature's chairmanships of standing accounts and public accounts continue to be held by the ruling party. The credibility and objectivity of SCOPA is based on the Global Democratic Convention that committees are chaired by the opposition, and it is extremely regrettable that 7 out of 9 of SCOPAs in the provincial legislatures are not chaired by opposition parties. In the interest of transparency and accountability and the sensitive nature of the work that SCOPA does, the ruling party must relook at its deployments in this regard and do the honorable thing of handing over the chairmanships of SCOPA to opposition parties in the respective provincial legislatures. SCOPA chairmanships in South Africa as follows: the NA is the APC, Gauteng ANC, Limpopo ANC, Northern Cape ANC, Northwest ANC, Mpumalanga ANC, Free State ANC, KwaZulu-Natal ANC. It is only the Eastern Cape and the Western Cape which follows this international convention. The current situation flies in the face of the recommendations of Auditors General internationally and also makes the ruling party both a player and a referee in a crucial area of oversight. Whilst we acknowledge that there's no law to the effect opposition parties must chair SCOPA, the best practice, convention, and traditions behind such a move must not be negated to the point that we collapse the gains and strengths of our own democratic progress. I thank you.
Thank you. ANC.
Ke a leboga motlotlegi Motlatsa Mmusa Kgotla. The South African law enforcement agencies must be commended for their excellent work, resulting in the arrest of 19 men who are part of a syndicate dealing in illicit diamond trading on Friday, 23rd August 2014 in Gauteng, the Northern Cape, Free State, and Northwest. In Kimberley, 8 further suspects later handed themselves over to the police in connection with the same crime bust. This syndicate is believed to be responsible for the theft and sale of illicit diamonds worth billions of rands, and which is costing South Africa millions of rands in lost revenue. The suspects are charged under the Prevention of Organized Crime Act and appeared in court on charges of money laundering, illegal diamond dealing, and in possession of suspected illicit diamonds. The operations of these syndicates show that the networks of crime have grown in their reach and sophistication across national borders. Government vows to continue expanding and deepening cooperation among law enforcement agencies in the region and further afield. At the same time, we are cognizant of the fact that we must enhance our systems of border control and improve the capacity of our defense force and intelligence agencies to secure the integrity of our states. Ke a leboga, Mmusa Kgotla.
UDM. UDM. Oh.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, during my recent visit to my constituency in Mhlonhlo, it was brought to my attention that a bridge needs to be considered for construction in Mbombo location, Ward 12, at the Tina River within Mhlonhlo Municipality, Qumbu. In the beginning of the current year, 2014, 2 children who attended Tabasa Junior Primary School drowned in the aforementioned river. Both children are around the age of 13 and were from the Sombaba family. Yes, there have been efforts to find these poor souls, however, no positive results registered to date. The parents are distraught by this incident. We recommend that your office to consider this matter as a matter of extreme urgency, given that it threatens people's lives, access to education, and many other socio-economic realities confronting the rural poor. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. ANC.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. The African National Congress in Parliament would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the City of Durban for winning a bid to host 2015 edition of the World Routes Conference, which will bring together CEOs of major international airlines at Inkosi Albert Lutuli International Convention Center. This event, Honorable Deputy Speaker, it is for the first in the country, which brings together key stakeholders in the aviation and tourism industry, and it includes airlines, airports, and tourism industry players. Through this conference, the ANC-led eThekwini municipality will be able to engage the major global airlines with the objective of getting them to consider King Shaka International Airport as an alternate hub to enter Southern Africa. The City of Durban and KwaZulu-Natal province have embarked upon a development strategy to grow the regional tourism economy and to increase the number of international tourists in KZN by 2030, which is part of eThekwini Municipality 2030 vision. The plan is to grow passenger and cargo airlift out of King Shaka International Airport and the hosting of the World Routes 2015, which will assist in improving the air services potential of the airport, coupled with the trade gateway operations of the 2 SC ports. In addition, Honorable Deputy Speaker, bringing together the event to the growing aviation market of Africa, which also has significant potential, which will be a huge benefit to the region. I thank you.
ACDP. ACDP.
Thank you, Chair.
The ACDP calls on government to place a moratorium on shale gas exploration and stop the legislative process to regulate until all evidence has been considered. The Associated Press reported last week that details had been released regarding 243 cases of companies prospecting for oil or gas in the US being found to have contaminated drinking water. Problems include methane gas contamination, spills of wastewater and other pollutants, and wells drying up or becoming undrinkable. Fracking or hydraulic fracturing involves pumping a pressurized mixture of water and chemicals deep into the ground to extract natural gas trapped in shale layers. The ACDP recognizes that government has a responsibility to ensure energy security, and shale gas provides the country with the potential to reindustrialize. It is, however, a contentious issue, and the pros and cons must be carefully weighed. The ACDP calls once again on the Ministers of Energy and Mineral Resources to give careful consideration to community concerns and recommendations, and to ensure ongoing communication and consultation with stakeholders. Energy demand in South Africa will increase in years to come for many reasons, including population growth and our NDP. Apart from a recognized need to transition to renewable energy, trade-offs may be inevitable, but we need to know more with regard to health, agricultural, water and social impacts. The ACDP calls on government to urgently do the necessary environmental impact, social and health assessment, which must include cultural and religious issues. Thank you.
Thank you. ANC.
The African National Congress note with disgust the appalling behavior of hooliganism displayed by people who disrupted the functioning of the local municipality in Kokstad, KwaZulu-Natal recently. A group of people wearing EFF regalia stormed the Kokstad municipality offices and ordered staff and management out of their offices in what they termed a demand for a response to their petition. The act of anarchy in Kokstad municipality offices is a calculated move to cause further instability ahead of 2016 local government elections. Causing anarchy in our municipalities and preventing them from delivering services amount to criminal behavior. We are appealing to the EFF leadership to make use of legitimate channels for expression of views guaranteed by our Constitution. We strongly condemn the behavior and we hope such will not be repeated. Ngiyabonga, sekela somlomo baba.
Honorable Member, GA. GA.
Deputy Speaker, the DA has repeatedly warned of the imminent collapse of Makana municipality's finances, as well as the collapse of the water and sanitation infrastructure. We now welcome the fact that Makana municipality has finally been placed under administration. On Monday last week, the DA wrote to MEC Fikile Xasa requesting yet again that he place the municipality under Section 1391B administration effective immediately. This after his predecessor, Mlibo Qoboshiani, repeatedly failed to deal decisively with the multiple critical issues staring him straight in the face. But it took a visit to Grahamstown from Minister Gordon to see for himself what a mess this municipality was in for the final step to be taken. Something stinks in Makana municipality, and it is not just the sewerage. It is the hidden Kabuso forensic investigation commissioned by council but never tabled for action. I have this week submitted a PIA application to make this report public, and if the ANC is incapable of taking action against the corruption, the DA will. The Minister has promised to return to Grahamstown in 90 days, and I would like to invite him to visit Kwatata, a forgotten community living on the edge of a waterfall of raw sewage which flows past and through the homes of the real victims of the failure of this municipality, the poor. As of today, many parts of Grahamstown are still without water while the sewage continues to flow freely. The ANC have allowed this once proud city of saints to be governed by sinners for far too long. I thank you.
ANC. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. ANC. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. South Africa celebrates Abba Week from 1st to 7th September under the theme Forests and People, Investing in a Sustainable Future. Abba Week is a campaign by the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, DAF, aimed at celebrating and creating awareness about the significance of trees
in our lives. The Million Trees program is a public greening initiative that was launched during 2007 Abawik launch in Garankuwa. The program provides low-income communities with fruit trees to plant at their homes. It also targets schools, early learning centers, clinics, and old-age homes. The set task is to plant 1 million trees across the country annually. The Department of Agriculture, Forest, and Fisheries is collaborating with the Institution for Environment and Recreation Management and Total South Africa, runs the National Urban City Award competition. The purpose is to encourage local municipalities to green their communities. ANC would like to congratulate winners of the annual Urban City Award competition.
Thank you very
ANC
much, Honourable Member.
Thank you very much.
The time has expired. Thank you. Agang. Agang of South Africa. Ayo. Okay. All right. ANC.
Honorable Speaker, the African National Congress congratulates the government of the Republic of South Africa under the leadership of His Excellency President Zuma on the recent selection of the government of South Africa to serve as government co-chair on the Open Government Partnership Steering Committee from the 24th of September 2014 until September 2016. This important achievement was formally announced on the 4th of August 2014 at the OGP session of the US-Africa Leadership Summit, which took place in Washington, D.C., United States. South Africa will use its tenure as co-chair to ensure that OGP country action plans promote the domestic priorities of countries as they undertake to strengthen their good governance initiatives. The South African government is of the view that a focus on strengthening domestic priorities will, with the support of OGP, regional and other governance networks, lead to improved governance practices. South Africa is therefore committed as one of its priorities during its tenure as OGP co-chair to facilitate greater collaboration between the OGP regional governance structures and the United Nations system, as well as the creation and strengthening of a mechanism of ongoing civil society and government interaction. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. G A.
Deputy Speaker, over the past few days, months, and years, it has become increasingly obvious that when certain political parties cannot get their way, they resort to anarchic behavior and infantile tactics rather than debating the issues in a reasoned and rational manner. Examples abound, from the poo protests last year to the toying and disruption of council meetings in the city of Cape Town when the mayor presented the budget earlier this year. Organizations such as Sescona serve no purpose except to further the ANC's barely veiled campaign to make Cape Town and the Western Cape ungovernable. More recently, we saw this House descend into anarchy because the Speaker could not maintain control over a few unruly members. But this is hardly a new thing, and the ANC should take note that the EFF has learned its behavior from the so-called ruling party. In fact, it is this kind of terminology that leads to rebellion, protest, and revolution.
Member, just take your seat. Yes, what's your rising on, ma'am?
The Democratic Alliance sits in a committee that is looking at this matter. And I think it has got impact on the processes of that committee that has got to look at the issues that she's raising. And it will take us to court at the outcome because of such conduct. Can you please rule if this member is in order to talk about the process that is sub judice? I thank you.
Finish your stuff.
Chairperson, it is terminology like ruling party that leads to rebellion, protest, and revolution. In a democracy, we expect government, not rulers. And when leaders of political parties, and let's name and shame them, Tony Ehrenreich, Marius Fransman, Andile Lilly, and even the Honourable Julius Malema, to name but a few, call for a South African city or province to be made ungovernable, prompt action should be taken by their party to discipline them and bring them into line. Instead of building a better South Africa for all who live here, These so-called leaders seek their 2 minutes of fame by actively trying to destroy the work of those that do.
Your time has expired.
Thank you, Honours.
ANC. ANC. Okay. Okay. All right. DA, if DA.
Thanks very much, Deputy Speaker. The recent revelations by the Department of Human Settlements that 2 billion rands have been spent to rectify the shoddy workmanship of some contractors is a cause for great concern. What should worry us more is that those responsible for this act are walking free, or should I say, they are driving free in their expensive cars whilst the poor are suffering. That nothing has been done to make them pay for their wrongful deed shows that we are not serious about punishing those who build poor quality houses for our people. In fact, I consider their actions as criminal. They have stolen from the poor and they have actually halted development. It is time that those that receive government tenders with the sole purpose of lining their pockets and not delivering quality houses to our people are made to pay back the money and be banned from doing business with the state. Only those that are serious in delivering quality houses for our people should be given the contracts. Fact is, we do not have money to go around rectifying shoddy workmanship when the housing backlog is increasing. We must deal strongly with these unscrupulous contractors to ensure that our people receive quality housing. I thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, honourable members. Honourable members, is this one more slot? Okay. 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 Okay, all right. All right, it looks like there's one or more slots left. EFF? Okay, ICO, ANC? Okay. All right. Go ahead, honourable member. Are you? No, it's all right. No, it's okay. It's finished now. Yeah, no. No, nobody wants to speak. You can't impose it on them. Honourable members, slots are finished. You haven't wanted to take them up. We're proceeding to the... that concludes member statements. No, wait, we will now have any ministerial responses. Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Deputy Minister, Home Affairs, Minister, Human Settlement, Minister, Science and Technology, in that order.
Deputy Speaker, the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, in partnership with Total South Africa, in the Johannesburg City Parks and Zoo, launched Arbor Week at Mufolo City in Soweto, 1st September 2014. This year's theme is Forests and People Investing in a Stable Future. We adopted from the World Forestry Congress, which we hosted by South Africa in September 2015. The department with the Institute for Environment and Recreation Management, South Africa, runs the National Arbor City Award competition, and some municipalities have been awarded for the good work they have done. A part of the mission of the greening program is that by the end of the campaign on 7th September, we'll have planted 4,500 trees throughout the city of Johannesburg. And 800 of those will be dedicated to the locals of Procedural Park and also Cape Town, because the aim is to address poverty and ensure that people are made access to fruit trees they can use for their own livelihood. And we believe that many of the members of this House have participated in that process to ensure that our country remains green and we're able to give our people food to live on. With those words, thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Deputy Minister, Fatima Johan.
Deputy Speaker, thank you very, very much. Just on the matter related to the Dalai Lama, I do think that members in this House as leaders have a responsibility. They have access to information that ordinary citizens do not. And for members to merely read the newspapers every day and come and regurgitate what they have read is very irresponsible, I believe. And it's conduct that is very consistent with a particular opposition party in this House. And we really want to urge that members do some research. And if you don't have access to researchers, come to the ANC and we will assist members from the other side. In regard to this particular matter, my information is that while we have received an application, the matter is being processed. There's no suggestion that it was rejected and so on. This is precisely, Deputy Speaker, what happened the last time. What happened the last time was that there was an application, and because there were rumors peddled by some people, the application was withdrawn before we could consider it. Now, I really want to urge whether, if these members do want the eminent person to come to South Africa and visit, that they should do everything in their power to accurately convey the situation as it is. Secondly, and as it pertains to the chairperson of the IEC, I reiterate my call that people, when they communicate in this House, should endeavor to do so accurately. There was no finding of corruption against the chairperson
Honorable
of the IEC.
Deputy Minister, your time has expired. Honorable Minister of Science and Technology.
I thought my colleague, the Deputy Minister of Minerals, was named before me, but I can proceed and say that as far as I'm aware at this time, there isn't exploration of shale gas. There is an intention by government that this would happen. And clearly, we would look to all the research that is currently available. And we have noted the research studies on the United States. Of course, what one must remember is that often you can use different technologies and processes in order to explore for shale gas. So the methods that might be used in the United States would not necessarily be the method that we would seek to utilize in South Africa. Should the exploration of whether or not there is shale gas in South Africa prove true, this will be a game changer for our economy, and thus is something that we should not reject lightly. It has massive job opportunities, could turn around our challenges with respect to energy provision in South Africa. It certainly would create new manufacturing and innovation opportunities. Thus, I do think it is a matter that is certainly worth investigating, exploring, and should it prove true, the amounts that are being referred to in early reports, it holds out massive opportunity for economic development in this country. So I think let's not be quick and assume that what is done elsewhere is what we will do exactly here. Lessons of what occurs elsewhere form a useful opportunity of determining what form of technological innovation or method of exploration a country might need to consider. I'm intrigued, Chairperson, by the reference to parties that have infantile behavior. And I would say that it would seem the DA has woken up. One response.
Sorry? Yes.
Ah, all right. Thank you.
Yes. Sorry. Honorable Minister of Human Settlement.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, I want to agree with Honorable Ghana in everything that he has done, and the Betty Honorable Minister, Honorable Member next to him should actually be be told that if he doesn't grow up here, then his dummy performance in the Seriti Commission will owe him a dummy present from me. But I wanted to concentrate on Honorable Ghana. Honorable Ghana, I completely agree with you. There is no way we can continue spending so much money rectifying work that should have been done properly in the first place. And we're going to stop that. We're going to make sure that people build their houses properly so that we can benefit so many more people. I think you're a very good listener, and I would advise you, you're in the wrong party.
Any other ministerial responses? Okay. Okay. That concludes ministerial responses. The last order item on the order paper is motion in the name of Honorable J.S. Malema.
Thanks very much, Deputy Speaker. The EFF is honored that we are taking this platform to speak about the condition and remuneration of mine workers in South Africa. We know that generations of politicians before us have been afraid to speak openly about mining, particularly on areas that threaten mine owners' maximum profits. We are here to change that perception and perspective of South Africa's political discourse. The mineral resources of this country belongs to all South Africans, and only through nationalization will the country enjoy a more democratic and socialized ownership and control of mineral wealth by all, including the workers. Because as things stand now, many of the people employed by mining who do the hardest of the work are black people who work in the deeper underbellies of the earth. The mine workers work under extremely difficult and dangerous conditions and are paid very small salaries for their labor. The dawn of democracy has not really changed the lives of many of mine workers in South Africa. Their salaries and conditions of employment are disgusting, to say the least. An average Australian mine worker doing the same job as South African earns at least 10 times more. On average, a typical South African mine worker earns between 4,000 and 6,000 a month, while mining executives earn millions of rands per annum. Many of these mine workers have lost self-esteem because of their inability to sufficiently support their families. A lot of them commit suicide because these challenges have become psychological to many of the mine workers in South Africa. They live under extreme poverty and their livelihoods are unsustainable. So the problem is not that mines cannot afford to pay workers fair salaries. The problem is that mining companies refuse to shed off their historical baggage and still exercise authority to continue the pre-apartheid and apartheid project of enslaving Africans in these mines and rejecting them in the land of their own birth. A historical attraction of mining investors in South Africa who have been exploiting our mineral resources for generations has always been the availability of black cheap labor, labor that has been and is still working and living in slave-like conditions. Deputy Speaker, as our first motion in this House, we'd like to recommend for resolution by this Parliament that we establish a parliamentary commission on the remuneration and working conditions of workers in South Africa. We propose that such a commission be set up to investigate the conditions of mine workers, affordability of 12,500 by mining companies, the impact of transfer pricing on the South African economy, and come back to this House to table a report on issues that we should resolve upon. Amongst those is a resolution on a new minimum wage that should be legislation for all mine workers in this country. Amongst the recommendations the Commission should table to this House is the legislation on what should be required for all mining corporations, privately and state-owned mining corporations, on the housing, sanitation, water, and healthcare requirements for all corporations to extract minerals in South Africa. This Parliament will be shocked to discover that most mine workers are paid below the agreed minimum wage. Most of us will be shocked about the living conditions of mine workers. We are raising and tabling this recommendation because it is evident that mine workers are not beneficiaries of mining in South Africa. Mine workers have a lesser lifespan than an average South African. They, as the Minister of Health acknowledged, are the second largest group infected and harassed by TB infection, which is the biggest cause of death in South Africa. They are the most vulnerable group to occupational diseases and accidents. Majority of mine workers, mostly from Eastern Cape and Northern Cape, are infected with occupational diseases they got from the mines. They are treated like instruments which are used and when no longer useful, get dumped. It cannot be business as usual. We need to urgently, in an unapologetical and radical manner, change the living and working conditions of all mine workers, including paying them a living wage not less than 12,500. Deputy Speaker, I move that the House adopts the motion as it appears on the order paper. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Mafulo. Thank you, Honorable Member.
Motlotlegi motlatsa Musa Khotla, maloko a tlotlegang ke tsenyeletsa le baeng ba rona ba lefe. Tshokologo e ntle ke eo. Dumela nelwang ke pula masagasagane montle. Motlotlegi motlatsa Musa Khotla, ke itumelela go tsaya karolo mo puisanong e botlhokwa e ya matshelo katlego le bokamoso jwa malapa le setšhaba kgang ya seemo sa badiri kwa moepong. Honorable Deputy Speaker and members should know that I participate in this debate with a raised nerve as the Falam Commission is still in the process of dealing with this and related matter for our focus in this topic. Honorable Deputy Speaker and honorable members, I wish to caution members of this august House and South Africans not to be misled by the sight of red overalls and aprons to mean serious identity with the ordinary workers of our country and in particular the mine workers of Marikana. ANC ga e bue le go bonala fela fa batho ba tlhokafaletse. Gonne rona jaaka ANC re gotlhe re a tshela mme ebile re na le tsholofelo jwa batho bokamoso jwa batho. People should not be selective in helping the survivors, widows of Marikana. There are men and children who have also lost their loved ones, and if the support was real, it should be unbiased. As the ANC, we do not parade with colors to buy favor, but we know and identify with all the workers in our country. I personally come from Rustenburg. I know the pain and the real suffering of the people of Marikana. Instead, I carry with me, like the ANC, the lived and current experience of the ordinary workers, including the mine worker. And as a former shop steward, I'm saying all this with authority because I understand how it is work under difficult conditions. I know the dust from the mines in the Rustenburg area. So I'm well placed to comment on what I know instead of parading with the red colors and recite from the podium. Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, this debate takes place while there are reflections on the horrific and gruesome murder of women like Pinky Musiane at Anglo Platinum on 6 February 2012 and Cynthia Situke in 2013 at Kwezi Shaft of Aquarius Platinum Kundal in Rustenburg. The ANC-led government passed the Mine Safety Act number 29 of 1996 in order to allow women to work underground in the mines. This move was a progressive one, and as it came as a deterrent for discrimination against women in the mine. They were initially employed to do menial jobs like cleaning on the surface. Unfortunately, women played the immature male counterparts. Cases of rape and sexual assaults and murder of women underground were reported in various mining companies. And as the ANC, we condemn this criminal activity, and we are confident that the law will take its course. This serves as a wake-up call to mining bosses to craft and implement rigorous safety policies and follow up the harsh disciplinary actions against the perpetrators. Telling the truth into its last vein, the current working conditions of workers in the mines are both appalling and deplorable. Critically to this condition is the sexist tendency and practices in the mines. This continues to be despite a progressive move by the ANC-led government having introduced the Mine Health and Safety Act number 29 of 1996. We also welcome the presentation before the Mineral Resource Committee by AMCU, NAM Solidarity, SAMDA, Chamber of Mine on the issues to be considered by the committee in their strategic plan. These issues will assist greatly in the improvement of working conditions of the employees in the mine. It should be noted that the culture of unity among mine workers remains an important catalyst for worker cooperation, irrespective of the union affiliation. This catalyst calls for tolerance, cooperation, and mutual understanding among workers. It reduces chance for brewing tensions in the mines. On the other hand, accommodation used for the mine workers is not up to scratch. Accommodation is limited and not conducive for the entire family. The idea of single-sex hostel has had a negative impact on the society. The ANC welcomed the commitment made by the mining companies to meet the 2014 deadline for the provision of decent accommodation for the mine worker. The safety gear in the mines as a protective measure is inappropriate for women. It best suits their male counterparts, and something urgent needs to be done in order to address this, lest the women's safety be compromised. Honorable members, it is advisable to desist from having a biased approach in identifying with selective union instead of taking mine workers as one unit. Employees of the mining company, this breed division, as some members get easily tempted to isolate certain workers' union at the expense of the others. As members, we should play a unifying role for the workers in the promotion of mutual relationship among workers affiliated to various trade workers' unions. Motlotlegi Motlatsa Musa Kgosi, fa ke garela ke rata go dira boikuelo mo boemong jwa ANC gore a re lekeng go tshegetsa maiteko mangwe le mangwe ao a tla tlisang tirisano mmogo le maemo a re tibetseng kwa meepong ya rona. Re se ka ra dira dipuo le ditshwaelo tseo di tlholang ntwa le karogano mo gare ga setšhaba sa rona. Go ka itumedisa go bona baeteledipele ba mekgatlho ya sepolotiki ba tshwaragane go thusa ka ebile sedika ke ntša pedi ga se thata ebile mabogo dinku a tshebana. Rotlhe re ka thusa go tokafatsa maemo a badiri kwa meepong ya rona. Our icon President Nelson Mandela, paying tribute to Comrade Tata Walter Sisulu, said, I quote, "His greatness as a leader derived from his humility and his ingrained believing and respect for collective leadership. He knew and taught us the wisdom comes from sharing insights and listening to and learning from each other. He was always the unifier, never a divider. Where others of us would speak a hasty word or act in anger, he was patient and one seeking to heal and bring it together. Rotle, South Africa is a better place to live than it was before the 1994. Working together, we can do more.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Leader of the Opposition.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, the DA will move to amend the resolution proposed by the EFF. In fact, we believe this proposed ad hoc committee must, instead of playing politics, deal with the real challenges facing our mining communities. The challenges we face, in fact, the DA will therefore propose that the ad hoc committee investigate the challenges we face in attracting investment into the mining sector, the loss of jobs in the mining sector, the living conditions of mine workers in general, and President Jacob Zuma's promises to improve the lives of mine workers. Madam Speaker, Speaker, what is happening in our mining industry is an absolute disgrace. 2 years after the atrocities of Marikana, we are no closer to finding out a more dignified life for the mine workers. Nor are we closer to rebuilding a vibrant mining sector that creates jobs and grows the economy. The conditions that existed in Marikana prior to the massacre still in fact exist today. Kore ke ne ke ile go Marikana, ke bone ka mokgwa batho ba rona ba sokolang ka teng. ke bone ka tsela e leng gore mokgatlo wa African National Congress ga wa agela batho ba rona dikolo, ga gona ditleliniki, batho ba ba nnang ko Marikana le gompieno ba setsana ba sokola. People are living in poverty and are facing no hope. In fact, it's for this reason I cannot in good conscience support the EFF's resolution. This resolution will not facilitate the discussion of real issues. Honorable members, you see, the ANC-EFF approach for mining will in fact be disastrous. It will mean more mine workers will be unemployed. It will result in more cronyism and corruption. It will hurt the very people it's supposedly meant to help. What the ANC and the EFF won't admit today is that their plans are one of the same. They are not in fact on the side of job creation. They are not on the side of fixing our broken mining sector and creating hope for our people. They both follow the same principle, simply that the state alone can decide how mining will work in South Africa. President Zuma's ANC thinks it can dictate how investment must take place through the MPRDA bill. It thinks it can control what price minerals should be beneficiated, and it thinks it can expropriate ownership at random without risking investment. The EFF thinks it can nationalize anything and everything, from the ocean to the banks, to the stock exchange, to the mines. Honorable Malem, the ANC has already tried a state-owned mine. In fact, it's called LX Core, and it's a failure. Just as the impoverished people of Richtersveld. So for both the ANC and the EFF, it's about enriching themselves and their cronies. The plans are to take more control so that they can share the riches amongst themselves and their friends. They want more billionaires, which will even mean poor mine workers. Honorable members, in the last 25 years, we've lost 400,000 jobs in gold mining. In the last 6 years, we've lost 40,000 jobs in platinum mining, and the mining output is down. The first 3 months of this year alone, it was down to 24%. And in fact, in the last quarter of last year, the number of employed in the mining sector has shrunk by 1.18. Our people continue to suffer unemployment and poverty because big politicians ignore economic reality. If we continue down the slippery slope, we will compromise our fiscal stability and grow our trade deficit. And that means less money for schools, less money for hospitals, less money to deliver services to the impoverished mining communities across our country. This is the solution that the DA offers. If we are to create a better life for mine workers, we need to have a mining sector that works, that creates jobs, that is profitable, and pays taxes to fund our developmental plans. This requires that this government spends less time killing jobs in the mining sector and more time in delivering on the promises to improve the living conditions of mining communities. We must, in fact, empower South Africans who mine, to own the very shares in the mining houses, if they so choose, in their own private capacity. It can't be that we empower a few billionaires who sit on to my right and rather ignore that ordinary workers must be able to own shares in the mines that they work in. This, in fact, is real economic justice and true transformation. Honorable members, this is not about creating wealth for a few connected billionaires. It's about creating developmental partnerships between mines, between government and mining houses to create wealth for South Africa. We must, in fact, act on these issues. We must act now. We must, in fact, restore investor confidence and make sure that our mines in this country are open for investment and can do business. For if we increase the level of regulation that mines have to comply with, we will, in the end, mean less jobs. It's as simple as that. In fact, we must immediately improve mining towns. We must repeal job-killing legislation and reject this MPRDA bill. We must shut down this nationalization game and, in fact, let the workers ballot before a strike. But most of all, honorable members, we must admit the failings at Marikana and show the rightful respect to those who lost their sons, who lost their fathers, who lost their uncles, who lost their cousins, and who lost their brothers. We must admit these failings and deal with them. Galeboch.
Honorable Shivambo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. You know, Honorable Maimane, the political economy of resource management is far much more complex than what we're saying here. It's not possible to expand an economy without control of the natural resources. And that is a simple plea that we're making to society, to Parliament, to everyone else, that let us take strategic control of our natural resources so that we can add value on those. That is going to create more jobs, is going to expand the economy, is going to expand the revenue base as well for the state. It's not a narrow partisan issue that we're dealing with. It's a simple, basic thing that we need to appreciate, all of us, in terms of how we move forward. Now, yesterday we had the colloquium, last day on beneficiation in the Trade and Industry Portfolio Committee. And SAMDA made the presentation. SAMDA is the South African Mining Development Association. They made a presentation there about transfer pricing and illustrated with evidence that all the mining corporations are involved in transfer pricing and occurrences of tax-based erosion and profit shifting. What is that? It's when these multinational corporations produce goods and services, and particularly like the commodities, they sell to themselves in a tax haven in another part of the world, but for a lower price so that they can pay lower taxes here in South Africa. That is what has been happening with the mining industry in South Africa for a very long time. All the corporations, including the ones that are owned by, relatively by BEE shareholders, are involved in transfer pricing practices. And that means that the revenue that we can collect as a state or as a government, as parliament, from mining corporations is lesser. That explains the fact that the contribution of mining as a whole into the national fiscus is less than 25 billion. 25 billion cannot fund the education of KZN only, alone. Of KwaZulu-Natal only. The budget of KwaZulu-Natal for education is like 38 billion. It's going to be 41 billion in the coming financial year. And that is what we're dealing with. You've got a mining sector which is supposed to be the richest in the world, but can't fund education of just one province. And we're priding ourselves that the mining conditions and the mining is our backbone in terms of what should happen. But what are we calling for? The Commander-in-Chief of the Economic Freedom Fighters is proposing that we must establish a commission on the conditions and remuneration of mine workers. Why? It's because we have got indirectly and directly close to 1 million people who are working in mining-related activities. If you improve their living conditions, you improve their salaries, it means that you have improved the lives of approximately 10 million people on a dependency rate of 10 per person. So it's a basic call that let us improve the living conditions of our people, but also it gives you more resources in the communities, in our economy for many people to expand these resources. They are there, they are available. Wits University released a report, I think last month, about the Platinum Belt to check if the mine workers who are striking for 12,500 are making a reasonable demand. And a conclusion based on the financial statements of those mines, of the money which they have not stolen, of the money which they have not put on transfer pricing, illustrated that the mines can afford to pay adequate salaries, actually far even above the 12,500, the wage which has been demanded by workers. Why can't we provide strategic leadership
Honorable Member,
as South African society, as this parliament, that we need a proper minimum wage on the mining sector so that we can be able to help our community, to help our society? It's a simple plea. Thank you very much.
Honorable Easthuizen.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The working conditions of mine workers, we can all agree, are appalling. Their working environment makes them no better than slaves, despite their contribution to the coffers of the mine owners and the economy in general. Their remuneration has no is not compatible with their work, and this sector is in desperate need for a minimum wage standard to be set. Workers cannot rely on the whim of an employer for their salaries to reflect their work. In this case, there must be a standardized salary expectation that mine bosses cannot run away from. Not only do mine workers encounter appalling conditions where they work, but also where they live. Families find themselves to be forced to live in squalor as the men need to live close to the mines, and the employers are not really moved by their plight at all. Honourable members, our government also seems to be dragging their feet in this regard. The benefactors of BEE policies have become the oppressors. What is difficult to understand is that they oppress their own people. Some used to lead marches demanding better working conditions for mine workers, but now they have become the employers themselves. The same demands they were looking for then don't seem to apply to them now. The Aurora mine is an example of this type of exploitation. Mine workers have not been paid for over 2 years, with some reduced, and has been reduced to absolute poverty while waiting for their due salaries. And some of those who have a stake in this mine have relationships with very important leaders in this country, yet neither they nor the government has taken concrete steps in helping to resolve this issue. As the IFP, we call for a commission of inquiry to investigate the working and living conditions of the miners and make recommendations on what appropriate remuneration is due to the mine workers and how these living conditions can be improved. This level of exploitation must not continue. Our people deserve to be treated with dignity and respect instead of used like slaves. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Deputy Minister of Science and Technology.
Honourable Chair of the House, Honourable Ministers, Deputy Ministers, Honourable Members. Dignity is a cornerstone value enshrined in our Constitution, a value that is worthy of protection and promotion by all South Africans. But miners are still living in miserable and squalor conditions 20 years after the end of apartheid. Many of them live in shacks where there is no electricity, water, roads, proper sanitation, schools, and clinics. The Mineral and Petroleum Resources Development Act of 2002, as well as the Mining Charter, places an obligation on mining companies to make provision for the improvement in social circumstances of immediate neighboring communities, as well as the distant communities from which their labor force is drawn. This has clearly not been implemented as envisaged by the Act or the Charter. The mining industry contributes between 15 to 20% of the South Africa's GDP. It employs more than 1 million people, thus plays a prominent role in socio-economic upliftment in the country. But the benefits of mining are not enjoyed by the workers and surrounding communities. The determination of wages is left to a collective bargaining process. The failure to reach a concrete agreement through collective bargaining process during the Marikana tragedy is a clear indication of serious flaws in the current labor laws. The main weakness of wage determination processes is attributed to the migrant labor system. This builds poorly paid workers. They do not receive benefits such as health care and housing. Most mines continue to use labor brokers to exploit miners. The NFP believes that failure to reverse this or to scrap labor brokers is the root cause of many strikes that have occurred in the mining industry, and it perpetuates poverty and inequality. One contentious issue in the South African discourse is that of inequality as evidenced by disparity between management remuneration and that of a general worker. According to the Labour Research Services survey, the average CEO remuneration is about 20.2 million rands, which is 420 times of that of a mine worker. Indeed, the CEO and general workers are in different labor market segments and do not compete for the same jobs. But such glaring disparities are bound to result in labor unrest, especially when the management fails to genuinely consider the demands for a living wage and decent working condition by a general worker. Mine workers are working in risky, dangerous, and strenuous conditions, and for that, they should be compensated.
Honorable Member, your time has expired.
Thank you very much.
Honorable Matlala.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Ministers, Honorable Deputy Ministers who are here, Honorable Members. Honorable Chair, it is not only misleading, but mischievous for anyone who knows South Africa to claim that the only democratic government of South Africa has not addressed the plight of mine workers. The building blocks for the restoration of dignity of mine workers constitute a central tenet of the policy development and implementation of the ruling party, the beautiful African National Congress, and its tripartite alliance. None other than Mark Twain captures the essence of the problem facing us today when he said, I quote, "A round man cannot be expected to fit a square hole right away. He must have time to modify his space. It is in this context that we rest our hopes on time for the round man before us." Close quote. Honorable Chairperson, we have made progress in rewriting policies and legislations that seeks to undo the centuries-long colorful tapestry of repressive laws of the apartheid regime, designed to exclusively provide squalor working and living conditions of mine workers and benefit from the blood and sweat of their cheap labor. The migratory labor system, prison-like hostels, unhealthy and unsafe working conditions necessarily profile some of the appalling conditions that have been endured by mine workers prior to the democratic government of the African National Congress, especially for those who blow a trumpet of sardonic historical oblivion. Honorable Chair, let me quote one of our own, Pablo Escobar, a legend. A legend, he said, quote, 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 "Legends are built in many ways, but part of such legends consist of accusations made by the enemies and often for their own benefit," close quote. Honorable Chair, our short history of governing demonstrates significant strides that we have made so far, albeit that a lot of work more still lies ahead. For instance, the ANC gave workers the right to strike embedded in the Constitution of the Republic. This right is a significant milestone that should never be taken for granted, as it is an empowering tool for workers to negotiate better working conditions. You may recall, Comrade Chair, that it was in the 1940s when the African Mine Workers Union and the Council for Non-European Trade Unions were established. During this time, the forces against change held an absolute hegemony which denied workers the right to organize. As a result, the unions has emerged as one of the most effective vehicles for black opposition, which ultimately contributed to delivering democracy and freedom for all in the country. As we traverse our policy evolution, the working and living conditions of mine workers is steadily improving. Today, we can unashamedly declare that our regulatory interventions have substantially reduced mine fatalities from an average of more than 1,000 per annum before 1994 to a well below 100 last year. Of course, one fatality is one too many, Comrade Chair, but this trend demonstrates systematic improvement in the working conditions for mine workers. This is one of the key benefits of the effective implementation of our laws derived from the wisdom of the African National Congress. We are indeed on the right trajectory. Furthermore, Comrade Chair, our policy explicitly provides for the ownership elements to include mine workers through such structures as the Employee Share Ownership Program, often referred to as ESOP. It is unprecedented that South African black miners could have such channels made available. It is only possible by the progressive workers-focused organization of the caliber of the African National Congress. The recent benefits derived from Kumba to workers mark an inspirational model of what wealth structures, ESOP, can deliver to workers to ensure that development of mineral resources does not entrench marginalization of workers, but can deliver tangible benefits. Our program, Comrade Chair, to eradicate single-sex hostel is progressing very well. The regulatory milestone of 100% conversion of all single-sex hostel by 2014 represents our determination to reinstate the self-worth of mine workers. In most cases, noteworthy progress has been made to provide decent residence for mine workers. Our policies and determination of the deep-rooted unions have jointly made it possible to incrementally improve remuneration packages of mine workers, not specific mine workers like people are referring to Marikana mine workers. While we still have some way to go in order to close the unsustainable salary differential between the highest and the lowest paid employees in the mines, we must recognize the progress made to date in dealing with the emotive subject. In conclusion, Chairperson, I draw for the wisdom of Plato to oppositively locate the basis of the motion under discussion, that is, wise men speak because they have something to say, fools because they have to say something. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Member Machege.
Honorable Speaker and honorable members, it is crucial to acknowledge the importance of the remuneration and conditions of service of mine workers in South Africa. Mine workers play an integral part in our economy. They should be recognized for the service they provide. The United Democratic Movement calls on government to set up a commission on mining to, among others, to investigate the socio-economic conditions of the workers and surrounding communities, to investigate the mine workers' access or lack thereof to a provident fund worth billions of rands, the investment of workers' money, especially in cases where the workers were retrenched or have retired or passed away, and the ownership of mines and mineral wealth, the allocation of mining rights, as well as who benefits from these mines. We are pleased that Platinum Producers Anglo-American Limited, Impala Platinum Holdings Limited, and Lonmin reached a settlement of the negotiations with regard to wages and conditions of service with the Association of Mine Workers Construction Union on the 25th of June 2014. The CEOs of the aforementioned mines have stated that much work needs to be done to improve the lives of our employees and members of our communities, working hand in hand with government. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Machege. Honorable Madisha.
Honorable Chair, thank you very much. Part of the reason why so many people turn to violence stems from anger between themselves and the democratic parliament. Things were meant to be different, but few of our nation's problems ever get to be discussed in this House. COPE, therefore, welcomes the opportunity of discussing the remuneration of mine workers and their service conditions. In fact, we need to address an even more fundamental question: for how long will miners continue to be migrants with a family back home and perhaps a family at the place of work? For how long will miners be denied proper accommodation, municipal services, and recreational facilities? For how long will their exploitation continue? It is common cause that miners are underpaid, and to add insult to injury, miners do not have state benefits in the form of housing so that families can live as families. The state and mine owners need to cooperate to improve the living conditions and family integrity of mine workers. Mine workers need to be recipients of profit, sharing, and shareholding. Marginal mines should not shut down, but should be made available to mine worker cooperatives so that they can continue in existence for the benefit of mine workers as well as for the good of the economy. Implant's chief executive, Chris Griffiths, said that in contrast to the salary of more than 17 million rand last year, the men who risked their lives every time they went underground were not even worth 12,500 rand. Although he apologized for this remark, the disparity is just too enormous, and the benefits accruing to the executives and mine workers are just too disparate. We need to follow the Nordic model of injecting a heavy dose of socialism in the capitalist order of the day. In complex world of today, it is not either or, but a well-balanced combination of both. The issue of remuneration and the conditions of service of mine workers in South Africa must continue to receive serious attention, both for the sake of those who work in the mines and the rest
Honorable
of society
Madisha,
that benefits from their contribution to the economy. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable members, I know it may be a bit boring towards this time of the day, so can we converse quietly so that we don't drown the speaker on the podium? Honorable Dudley.
Thank you, Chair. The ACDP does not agree with the EFF motion. In our opinion, the Marikana Commission is dealing with these issues, and once the findings are presented to the President, then Parliament can respond through relevant portfolio committees such as Police, Mineral Resources, and Labour. I'm personally very grateful that I have not had to consider mining as a career, and I admire those who do this work that many of us can't or won't do. I can't imagine any amount of salary compensating for the danger and discomfort of working underground. Of course, directors and managers earning big salaries will be only too happy to assume workers are satisfied if workers don't raise the issue in a manner that shows the degree of dissatisfaction adequately. New research, in fact, shows that huge profits in the past decade were given to investors while workers benefited little, suggesting that if this had not occurred, workers could reasonably have been earning the wage that they are now striking for. Interestingly, though, compared to mine workers in major developing world countries like China, where they earn the equivalent of $174 a month, or India, where they earn $102 a month, South African workers and platinum mine workers in particular, who are earning $500,000 a month, just over $600, are by comparison better off. And then there's the plight of the South African factory workers, who are earning less than platinum miners, but still more than their counterparts in China, or India and Bangladesh, where factory workers apparently earn even less than those in China. In this industry, more maybe than any other, we have felt the pain of global competition, and textile jobs have declined significantly. It makes sense, though, that platinum mine workers earn more than SA factory workers when we consider that South Africa has more than 80% of the world's proven platinum reserves. Our platinum miners also don't face the same kind of international competition. Yes, Australian miners do apparently earn almost 10 times what our platinum miners earn. The difference being credited to output per worker or productivity. Now, the US is one of the most productive economies in the world and seen as the standard. Australia is, on average, about 20% less productive, but in both cases, it is technologies and management techniques that improve productivity. If, however, this means fewer and not more jobs, it may not be an ideal situation in our case, when so many people are out of work and the gap between the haves and the have-nots in South Africa grows daily. While the wage debate will no doubt continue, working conditions need urgent attention. South Africa has taken significant steps since the end of apartheid to address working conditions in the mining industry, but there's still a lot of room for improvement. The ACDP calls on government to ensure better implementation on existing mining regulations, especially when it comes to health and safety of miners. The ACDP also calls on government to increase funding for health and safety research, the lack of which has negatively impacted on the industry and its workers.
Honourable Dadl,
Thank you.
Your time is up. When Honourable Harris came back to the House, I just heard that he was here. Honourable Gallo.
Honourable Chair, it is a fact that South Africa is known for its mining industry. This is what put it on the global business map. It is abundant in precious metals and stone, aside from coal. In fact, mining is what propelled migrants, foreign settlers, and big businesses to set up chain stores in this country. The British came because of the diamonds, and the first Anglo-Boer War of 1880 erupted because of the annexing of certain diamond mines or fields. The second Anglo-Boer War was heavily influenced, on the other hand, by gold mining. Landlords like Cecil Rhodes and De Beers, who consolidated mines in this country, left the legacy of poor working conditions and the exploitation of black mine workers. The AIC is shocked but not surprised that after 20 years of the so-called democracy, black miners, black mine workers in this country are still exploited, working under appalling and unacceptable conditions. This is because of the fact that this country is led by transactional leaders as opposed to value-based leaders. If this is the case, or was not the case, the Marikana massacre would have been avoided. In conclusion, Honourable Chair, the AIC, believing in human dignity, respect, tolerance, and understanding, is not impressed by the political grandstanding and lumpen radicalism, tendencies which are demonstrated by some political parties in this House. Let us be robust in engaging, but not chaotic. I thank you.
Thank you, honourable members. Honourable Ollis, I was just recognizing that you are back in the House. I could hear. Honourable Piginini.
Mandibulise, Honorable Chairperson, ndibulise kwi-ministers nakwi-deputy ministers. Ndibulise kwakhona kwi-fellow colleagues. Ndibulise kwakhona phaa phezulu. Enkosi kakhulu. I rise to place the struggle of the mine workers in the broader context. Talk around issues of evolution of South Africa. You see, the ANC inezithalande. So kumbula uSolomon Plaatje, we call him Sol Plaatje, the first Secretary General of the ANC, a legend who have started the fight for miners in 2012. We began this fight long time ago. Asiqalanga namhlanje. Na kubalekile siyazazi izidingo zabantu. So uSolomon Plaatje, the first secretary of the ANC, described the lives of black miners in 1914 in the following words. I quote him: 200 subterranean heroes who by day and by night for mere pittance laid down their lives in the familiar fall of rock and who at tip level. So I close quote. Ranging from 1,000 to 3,000 feet in the bowels on the earth, sacrifice their lungs to the rock dust which develop miners, phthisis, and pneumonia. In 1941, when the decision to launch the Mine Workers Union was canvassed, the African workers were paid 70 rand at that time, annually, whereas white workers were paid 848. In 1946, the year of the Great Strike, the wages were, Africans were earning 87 rand, whites were earning 1,106 rand. In other words, the wage gap between the white workers and the black was 12-1. This issue lies at the heart of our history. From the days of the earliest settlers in the Cape, a central conflict has been about who will do the work and under which conditions, and who will get the profit. It is not a coincidence that the slave lodge is just a block from where we sit today, at the heart of historic Cape Town. It is the struggle of workers for decades before 1994 paid terrible cost, suffering from inadequate pay and unsafe conditions. Migrant labor, the repression of organizations, the murder of activists, and the massacre of strike that time. But their struggle was never ended or fully suppressed, and it forged an organized working class whose militance, dedication, and depth of experience is a pillar of our democracy. Indeed, it is no accident that labor rights formed a central claim of the Freedom Charter, and that today they are entrenched in our Constitution. It follows that we need to evaluate our progress as a democracy largely in terms of how well we have overcome the legacies of apartheid in the workplace. That on the plus side, in the Constitution and labor laws, the ANC-dominated parliament has entrenched workers' right to organize, negotiate, and to strike. We have gone far in legislating minimum standards for employment security, pay, leave, and working hours. The dispute settlement system established through the CCMA and Bargaining Council are efficient and fair compared to laborers and slow pre-1994 requirements. The skills systems lays a framework for increased resourcing for training for all workers. Ithini le nto in real terms. It is also disappointing that the share of workers in unions and bargaining council has not increased in the past 20 years. Union density has not gone down, but in a democratic order, with strong labor rights, it should go up. it has remained stuck at around 30% for the past 2 decades. Any real democracy needs the collective voice of workers as a counterbalance to the power of big business. We need to ask what the state can do to support worker organization, especially in hard-to-organize industries like agriculture also. While we have transformed much of the labor market, we have not done enough to transform relations within the workplace. Before 1994, the majority of workers faced profound inequalities as well as unfair and arbitrary decision-making at work. Supervisors had little training and often no respect for their subordinates. Pay systems and work organization were designed to ensure that few black workers got any recognition for seniority or had a chance at promotion. Qualities were unfairly divided and often inadequate. This system bred conflict and difficult wage negotiations. If your only chance of improving your condition is to fight for a higher base improvement, then negotiation will always be difficult and the subject to conflict. In an equal society, if you have no choice of promotion, your only hope is to fight for higher base pay. Where communication with supervisors is poor, disagreements are high. In short, we need to do more to transform this workplace system as part of the second phase of our transition. The phase of radical economic transformation, our most important move was in public service, where the democratic government equalized pay scales, defined salary levels, and provided for seniority notches. But we need to engage on how we can improve the work experience for the workers, especially in large formal companies like mines. A survey by COSAT in 2012 found that a quarter of black workers felt they were abused on the job. That figure speaks volumes about the need to find smart ways to influence the nature of our workplaces. Central to the challenge are the profound inequalities that still plague our economy. The share of remuneration in total value added has generally fallen since 1994. As employees have captured the bulk of value created through higher profit and growth, this has been especially true in mining, where soaring world metal prices before 2011 mostly added to profits. Since 2011, metal prices have been on the whole declined substantially, adding to difficulty in the industry. Where CEOs and investors take home millions, we cannot expect workers to wait patiently for improvement in their working and living conditions. The continuation of the migrant labor system imposes huge costs on workers. This has increased level of debt or machonisa and exploit the situation and dig workers deeper into financial trouble.
Member, your time has expired.
Thanks, sir.
Ilunga elihloniphekile uPlowama.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I just want to quote Professor Robert Sobukwe and D.F. Malan. Professor Robert Sobukwe, when he was still a member of the Congress Youth League, is the first leader as a protege of Mr. Mda, who used to go to political meetings wearing an overall. Therefore, D.F. Malan said, when you embark on a revolution, you should not compromise or you must just lose. So in that time, he was embarking on Afrikaner nationalism. The problem that we're experiencing now is a compromised revolution. In 1994, when the ANC was negotiating through CODESA, they compromised.
Order, honorable members, can we please converse quietly so that we don't drown the speaker on the podium?
They compromised black people. In another word, what we are trying to address today, it was lost in 1994. I know most of the leaders here hallucinate about nationalization. They talk about destructive revolution. What I'm trying to say, honorable members, is that what we need in South Africa now, is to understand that the majority of the owners of this country did not benefit before apartheid, even after apartheid, particularly the mining workers. This is not an issue that we can politicize and score points. The truth is, those who benefited before democracy, they still continue to benefit even today. The issue is we need to agree on how do we resolve these issues. To me, I think if we do parliamentary committees like the commission that we have, of which I hope that the Deputy President of this country is vindicated. Because if he's not vindicated, he will be the classic example of liberation heroes who betrayed their souls for the gain for material gain. So I am showing you that we have a situation where this democratic dispensation is not talking into the needs of our people. We have a situation where this democracy is actually benefiting those who benefited before, particularly in the mining industry and in the broader sense of all workers.
Your time has expired. Ilunga elihloniphekile umphathi.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, ministers, and all members of the National Assembly. I greet you all in the name of Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe. I say, izwe lethu. We are talking today about mining, and this has something to do with land. You cannot talk about mining without land. That is the genesis. It is unfortunate that in South Africa, they will say,
Honorable member, can you please speak quietly?
Yeah, they don't respect me. You cannot talk about land without mining. You cannot talk about mining without land. That is the beginning. Genesis, ke mathomo mayo. It is unfortunate that some of us, we own farms. Then these guys who are rich, they just come there and mine in my farm. When I talk, they say, it's not your minerals. Then it's a problem. Let's start with the ownership. Why do I own the surface only, not the surface and the underground? Because I'm not politically connected. I cannot get the mining license. People are just coming to my farm and take the minerals and go. Then I'm left with the farm. So please protect us. The Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania condemned and will condemn the killing of mine workers in Marikana and other mines in Limpopo, especially in the Pegasfort area, because it reminds us of the Sharpeville massacre of March 21st and the Soweto uprising in 1976. The longest strike that we experienced in the mining industry when they demanded 12,500 was correct. As Comrade Malema already talked about, Australian mine workers, that they are earning 40,000 rand as compared to our mine workers who are earning only 4,000 rand. It's a disgrace indeed. Some of us worked in the mining industry and we left there being poor. We say, yeah, I've got a farm because I'm clever. We say mine workers should be the shareholders of the mines because the land where capitalists are mining today have been stolen from their forefathers. And even today, that land
Honourable
was not
member,
returned to its rightful
Your
owners.
time has expired.
So we are saying, let's have the portfolio committees to look into these matters. Thank you very much.
It looks like the debate is warming up. There's some excitement now. But in our excitement, let's just allow the speakers to be heard. Honourable Lorimer.
Thanks, Madam House Chair. What a surprise to hear the PAC come out in favour of privately owned mineral rights. This debate has largely avoided some of the major issues. It's consisted of much grandstanding, particularly on the part of the ruling party and the son of ruling party, as they both try and win the votes of mine workers and the crown of the biggest radicals in the House. Well, we've had 12 speeches in which the plight of miners' job security has featured only twice. The DAs and well done to the ACDP. Who did their homework? Well, let's do our homework about miners' salaries. The Central Statistical Service's quarterly employment report says the average pay in the mining sector is higher than the average pay in manufacturing, construction, and retail, and almost the same as the financial intermediation, insurance, real estate, and business service industries. So pay is no more an issue in mining than it is elsewhere in the economy. You've heard about the 13,000 mining jobs that we lost last year. Unfortunately, I think we're going to lose more this year. And when you talk about lost jobs, you talk about people really losing their foothold in the economy. What happens when you lose your mining job? You're very unlikely to get another job. You go home to a rural area. You're very unlikely to ever get a job that pays as much. Now, this government persists in passing labour laws which guarantee adversarial labour relations. Mix the failed labour regime with unions who care more about the comfort and power of their leaders, and you have a toxic cocktail. One of the least commented on threats that confronts miners is posed by the conflict between different unions and between workers and the police. Now, the EFF motion has the intention to allow government to regulate the wages of miners. If government tries to do so, it will fail. Government can never have as much information as it needs to cover thousands of different situations on different mines. The EFF so loves the poor that it wants to create millions more of them. And you can bet your bottom dollar that none of its workers here want to be in their, none of its members here want to be in their ranks. Honourable Malema, you wear an overall for the TV cameras, but you're a worker of a special type. Anybody with an 18 million rand tax bill has got to be being paid as much as some of the richest of the mine owners. So there's been some bashing of mine owners in this debate, but who are these mine owners? Well, they're on this side of the House: the Honourable Deputy President, the Honourable Minister of Mineral Resources, the Honourable Speaker, whose BEE deal sparked an investigation by the US Securities and Exchange Commission. Now, I really can't let Honourable Matlala go without comment. You quoted one Pablo Escobar, who you described as one of our own. Now, most people know of Pablo Escobar as an infamous Colombian drug lord. You have some funny heroes, sir. But then on reflection, perhaps that explains some more about government mining policy. We had another first today. We were lectured on economic complexity by the EFF. I will say, Honourable Shivambu, that you almost got something right. Mines pay a lot less as a percentage to government revenues now than they used to, a lot less. But the reason for that is that government has made mining so unattractive in this country that the mining investors have left, and they've taken those jobs with them. Now, you can impose as many conditions as you like on miners, but the reality is that if it gets too tough for them, if they're not making money, they will go, and the jobs will go too. So you can force them, but it's not going to happen. Honourable Piccinini, thanks for the short history lesson. Perhaps he should be thinking more about the issues in the industry after 20 years of ANC mining policy. Now, all of this adds up to a struggle for influence and for money on the part of the ANC and the EFF, who one suspects are much more concerned with creating billionaires than creating jobs in mining.
Honorable the Deputy Minister of Mineral Resources.
Chairperson, thank you very much for the opportunity and also to participate in this most important debate today. Ministers, Deputy Ministers present, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends. On the 60th anniversary of the 1946 mine workers' strike, Parliament resolved as follows: that the living and working conditions of mine workers be investigated further and be improved. To support the initiative by the National Union of Mine Workers to build a workers' museum, and that Parliament gives consideration to naming some of its buildings after J.B. Marx, a leader of the African Mine Workers Union, and other struggle heroes. So it is therefore not necessary to come with new resolutions, but to continue to implement this resolution and other programs that we have implemented already. So the ANC will reject the resolution by the EFF. This forms part of the continued commitment of the ANC government to achieve national minimum wage for all workers, including mine workers, farm workers, domestic workers, and those who are vulnerable. And the Department of Labor, through NEDLEC, is seized with this matter. The struggle for better working conditions and living conditions of mine workers is historical and continue to be of utmost priority to the African National Congress. Therefore, it is really a distortion of history for honorable member who was here before to come and say that the generation that was before, that generations before the EFF were afraid to talk about the struggles of mine workers, and that nationalization, therefore, is something that came just yesterday. It was in 1931, colleagues, just to give a lesson of history, that the ANC sponsored a resolution to support the formation of trade union for African mine workers. And to give effect to that, on the 3rd of August 1941, the ANC pressed ahead, was strengthening the African mine workers, and by 1944, the membership of that union was in thousands. And the response of the Smuts government and the Chamber of Mines to this was lukewarm. In 1943, I'm coming to you now, the government set up a Lansdowne Commission to investigate the living and working conditions in the industry. Even the recommendation of the Wage Board to Parliament was simply turned down. It was in 1994 that the ANC started to change the laws of the country and streamline them to be in line with our democratic dispensation. The law that we're talking about here, the MPRDA, is one such transformation piece of legislation and its transformation charter. This gave the mining industry 10 years to transform the ownership patterns to include blacks, women, and mining communities as part of this change. 2014 is therefore the year where full implementation of this law must be realized. So we can't become instant revolutionaries now and try to run whilst we are here. We have arrived as the ANC. And it is difficult to argue with people who have the laws in front of them. They distort them. They come and talk about mine workers, and some of them have never seen an underground mine in their lives. I've worked in the mining industry for 14 years. I know it very well. So you can't come and do that. The people who can talk with authority on mines are comrades of the ANC here, not you. There is one member who comes here to tell us that when people can just go to his farm, take it and mine. Our laws do not allow that. Nobody goes to your farm and just mines. They've got to consult and the law says so. So it's embarrassing to say this in public because you are a member of parliament who have sworn here to protect the laws that we have passed here. Now you're standing here to come and distort the very same laws that you've got to give to the public of South Africa. I must say, experience has taught us that in this country, there are mining companies who have done well in improving the working and living conditions of mine workers. Marikana is not the only place where mining is taking place in this country. There are over 1,700 mines in this country. That one is just one of them. Go to Postmasburg today, because you only know Marikana. You'll see how the lives of mine workers have improved, how the living and working conditions have improved, how people have moved in line with the charter that was passed by this parliament to ensure that we eradicate single hostels, we build family units. This government, under the leadership of Comrade Jeff Gardee here, is busy looking into the very same matter to ensure improvement that we are talking about today here. But regrettably, there are mining companies who are still lagging behind. And as the DMR, we are going to be very unflinching in ensuring that compliance of our laws take place in this year. Let me also report that during our budget vote in this year, we raised a strong objection to the attitude of the Chamber of Mines and their successive oppressive regime towards the demands of mine workers. In 1946, the Secretary of the African Mine Workers Union, J.G. Majoro, under the presidency of J.B. Marks, wrote a letter to the Chamber of Mines about the demands of mine workers. The Chamber neither acknowledged nor responded to that letter. Following our objection to that kind of arrogance and insensitivity, the current president of the Chamber of Mines, Mr. Mike Teke, acknowledged that letter and responded in a limited way. We've got a copy of his response. And I must say, that was 68 years later. The NUM, in their memorandum to the Chamber of Mines on the 12th of August, 2006, refers to this persistent attitude that continues across generations to the latter day. They further declared that the underlying spirit of J.B. Marks, J.G. Majoro, Thabo Mofokeng, and Moses Kotane will continue to lead mine workers in the current period. And that, I quote, with our action now, we promise not to falter. Now, you see, the leader of the DA came here also to just talk about, to blame the ANC for the atrocities that mine bosses have created against mine workers. How ahistorical.
Honorable member, your time is expired.
Saved by the gong, eh?
Honorable Malima.
Thanks very much, Presiding Officer. It looks like you are going to be a deputy minister for a very long time because of your lack of grasping with issues. Here we are proposing a parliamentary committee and not the one announced by the president, because the one announced by the president is a government process. Learn to separate these two institutions. As a deputy minister, you'll do very well. Now, we mentioned in Marikana because there was killing of people in Marikana. And we mention it deliberately because it pains you. We're going to mention it until you become red because you don't want to hear it. It doesn't mean we don't know this country. We know this country. We have been to every corner of this country, some of us, and therefore, you are not qualified to tell us that we mention Marikana because we don't know other mines. That is being naive to even suggest that people can only talk about the mines if they've been underground. That is so petty and naive. It doesn't mean that if you have not been underground, you do not know what are the real issues in the mining sector. But your argument proves very well that you are a very good student of Gwede Mantashe, because that is his argument. Honorable Lorima, the tax bill is not 18 million,
Honorable
it stands
member,
at 1.5 million.
Malima.
And please...
Honorable Malima, can we just pause? Can I take a point of order?
Honorable leader of the EFF is being personal and attacking the deputy minister as a person. And it's not allowed in this house.
Thank you, Chief Whip. I will consult and then make my report at the end of the discussion. Honorable Malema.
Honorable Lorima, it's not 18 million, it's 1.5 million, the latest. So don't embarrass your child with figures because they might laugh at your own kids at school that your father speaks about the things he knows nothing about. So careful about such issues. Now, you must tell Maimane that the crisis we are facing, Honorable Maimane, the crisis we are facing today is not as a result of nationalization. It is as a result of neoliberal policies he's speaking about, and those policies have plugged us into a crisis we find ourselves in today. Therefore, to suggest that the proposals of EFF, which have not been tested as yet, are going to lead us into a crisis, it's wrong. Neoliberal capitalist policies have not worked, have created crisis for Africa, and you representatives of capital should be ashamed that our people till today are suffering. And therefore, none of you can tell us of what happens after being retrenched from work. We know poverty, we have lived poverty, and we understand the pain of poverty. You only read about it because we are in this situation through your own people who you are here to defend. Therefore, we must say to you that you must make it clear to Honorable Maimane that no one will take away the right of the workers to strike in the mines. There is no new rule which is going to be made by this parliament. The rules are sufficient and will protect those rules. And the ANC, if you can't regulate the mining sector, the workers are going to lead themselves in a revolution. News Matala, you don't qualify to call anyone a fool. Thank you.
Honorable Malema, can you please come back to the podium? In consultation with the table and also looking at the rules as well as the precedents in this House, the statements you made casting aspersion on the Deputy Minister, saying he's naive and so on, I think it was attacking his character. I would ask you to withdraw.
I'm not going to do that, Chair. For Minister to say people can talk about the mines only if they've been underground is petty, it lacks substance, and is naive.
Honorable Malema.
I'm not going to do it.
Chairperson, can I please address you on the process and precedence of this House? I think
Honorable Malema, can you take a seat? Honorable Malema, can you take a seat just where you are? No, just here. Oh, yeah. Yes, Honorable Shibambo.
Thanks. Honorable Chair, in all the debates that we have had in this House, there's been reference to Honorable Maimane, Honorable Malema on many issues that they said differently. You can't invent a new rule today because the Commander-in-Chief has criticized the Air Deputy Minister. So we really need to be consistent because every time we question what members say in this House and question if they understand the context within which that comes from. And that is what we have been doing throughout there. You can't invent a new rule because we're exposing the naivety of the Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Shibambo.
Honorable
Gardee.
Honorable Chairperson.
Honorable Gardee, can you take your seat? Since there's the debate whether or not the ruling is correct, I would ask that we come back to this matter tomorrow. I will further consult.
Thank you.
Honorable Malema, you can take a seat.
Thank you.
Order, honorable members. I now put the motion. Are there any objections? Honorable Chief Whip of the Opposition Party.
Madam House Chair, the Democratic Alliance would like to propose an amendment to the resolution on the order paper today. That the House deletes everything after the word "that" and replaces it to read as follows: that the House, noting the decimating impact of unemployment and turbulent labor relations on already impoverished mining communities, to establish an ad hoc committee to A, inquire into the living conditions of mining communities and the work done by government to improve their lives. B, review whether President Jacob Zuma has met promises he made to improve labor relations and the working conditions of mine workers in his 2014 State of the Nation address. C, investigate the impact of declining investment in the mining sector on unemployment and quality of life within mining communities. D, propose measures to improve labor relations within the mining sector to prevent protracted strikes in future and restore investor confidence. E, consist of 11 members as follows: ANC 6, DA 3, EFF 1, and other parties 1. F, exercise the powers in Rule 138 it may deem necessary for the performance of its task. And G, report to the Assembly on the 31st of October 2014. I so move.
I now put the amendment to the motion of Mr. J.S. Malema as moved by the Chief Whip of the Opposition. Are there any objections, Chief Whip of the Majority Party?
Honorable Chair, we oppose, both of them are, by the way, the same. They changed their language. The ad hoc committee, we oppose the motion, we oppose the amendment. Because the work that we are being asked to do is being undertaken as we speak by the Portfolio Committee on Labor. We don't need this ad hoc committee, or whatever color it is given, or shape or size, is the same thing.
I now put the question to the House. Those in favor will say aye. Those against will say no. I think the noes have it.
Chair?
If parties want their objections to be recorded,
Chair?
Honorable.
The DA calls for a division. Thank you.
Order, honorable members. A division having been called, the bells will be rung for 5 minutes. Order, honorable members. Can we take our seats? I wish to clarify that what we are voting for now is the amendment as it has been put by the chief whip of the opposition party. So we're voting for the amendment. I would like to remind members that they may only vote from their allocated seats. When requested to do so, members must simply indicate their vote by pressing the appropriate button below the yes, no, or abstain signs. If a member inadvertently presses the wrong button, the member may thereafter press the correct button. The last button pressed will be recorded as the member's vote when the voting session is closed by the chair. Are all members in their allocated seats? The question before the House is that the amendment to the motion of Mr. J.S. Malema, as moved by the chief whip of the opposition party, be agreed to. Voting will now commence. Those in favor of the amendment should press the yes button. Those against should press the no button. Those wishing to abstain should press the abstain button. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? Table staff, I think there are 2 or 3 members who have a difficulty with their voting system. Okay, the names will be checked. Thank you. The voting session is now closed. How many members were here?
It doesn't matter how many members, you just say in favor of 64, no, 159 abstained.
Well, the result of the division is as follows. In favor, 64. Against, 159. Abstention, 4. The amendment is therefore not agreed to. Order, honorable members. I now put the motion as it appears on the order paper. Are there any objections? Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
I repeat, Honorable Chair, that there's work on the same matter that is undertaken by the Labour Committee. There's no need for us to create another parallel structure. We object to the motion.
I now put the question. Those in favor will say aye. Those against will say no. I think the noes have it. Honorable Shibambo.
Honorable Chair, I want to call for the division of the House.
A division having been called, order, honorable members. A division having been called, the bells will be rung for 1 minute. Order, honorable members. Are all members in their allocated seats? I would like to remind members that they may only vote from their allocated seats. When requested to do so, members must simply indicate their vote by pressing the appropriate button below the yes, no, or abstain signs. If a member inadvertently presses the wrong button, the member may thereafter press the correct button. The last button pressed will be recorded as the member's vote when the voting session is closed by the chair. The question before the House is that the motion of Mr. J.S. Malema, as appeared in the order paper, be agreed to. Are all members in their allocated seats? Voting will now commence. Those in favor of the motion should press yes button. Those against should press the no button. Those wishing to abstain should press the abstain button. Have all members voted? Thank you. The voting session is now closed. Order, honorable members. The results of the division is as follows. Yes, 18. 18. No, 217. Order, honorable members. Abstain, 4. Order, honorable members.
Honorable Chair, may I address you?
Honorable Dlozi, we have just voted.
I just wanted to
There is
suggest
no
that
point
the
of
DA
order.
can now join the ruling party on the other side.
We can even welcome when the EFF can join the other side. I don't know which one. Honorable members, this concludes the business for the day. The House is adjourned.